Good evening, everyone. We're so happy to be back here in person. This is our home. This is where we've wanted to be, and we're here. And we're doing true hybrid as well. So what that means is that people can also call in and participate. So this is exciting, and I'm totally grateful for our IT department and city administration for finally getting here for us, because it has certainly been a long process, and we haven't been live as a city council in this auditorium since before COVID. So some of our new councilors have never even sat at the dais. So this is really exciting for us. So what I'd like to do right now is just introduce this meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone to our September 12th, 2023 City Council meeting. In the interest of government transparency with regards to deliberations and decisions made by the City Council, and according to open meeting law, for the convenience of the public, this meeting is recorded by video and audio, and a Zoom link was posted on the agenda. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. Roll call votes will only be necessary if a specific matter requires one or more of the council participates remotely. Tonight, we have all councilors here, so unless the vote requires a roll call vote, we do not have to do roll calls. What I'd like to do right now, before I read our non-discrimination statement, I'd like to just ask if we can go around the dais here. Council member, would you introduce yourself and your role? And if you would all just carry on and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Memhard, and I'm the Ward 1 City Councilor, and I also serve as Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee on the Council. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Worthley, and I'm on the Budget and Finance Committee as well, and I'm an at-large councilor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tracy O'Neill, Ward 2 Councilor. I'm on Planning and Development.
I am Jason Groh. I'm an at-large councilor, and I'm the Chair of Planning and Development.
My name is Sean Nolan. I'm the Ward 5 Councilor, Chair of O&A, and Council Vice President.
I'm Val Gilman. I'm Ward 4 City Councilor, and I'm President of the City Council. I'm also the Vice President of Planning and Development.
James O'Hara, at-large councilor. I'm on the Ordinance Administration Subcommittee. Thank you.
Francesco Margiotta, Ward 3 Councilor, and I'm on Ordinance and Administration. Thank you.
Tony Gross, City Councilor at Large. I'm also on the BNF Subcommittee. And welcome.
Joanne Sinos, City Clerk for this council.
I'm Grace Poirier, the Assistant City Clerk.
I'd like to read the non-discrimination statement opener for City Council meetings. It's the finding of the City of Gloucester that no individual should be denied equal treatment or opportunity because of their age, ancestry, color, disability, including intellectual and developmental mental disability, family status, immigration status, gender identity or expression, military status, marital status, national origin, race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. There are some members of city staff here that I would just like to recognize. Mayor Berger's in the back, our CAO, Jill Cahill. And we will be introducing our new staff member shortly. And on our call, on our Zoom call, I'm not on Zoom, so I need to see the list. Kenny Coster is here. He is our auditor. Okay, Suzanne Egan was on the call, General Counsel.
She is on now. She's on now.
Okay. And I ask that you bear with us because this is our first Zoom meeting. So we're integrating two technologies, and this is all new to us. And I also want to thank the IT department for all their hard work. Thank you for being with us tonight and getting us set up here. So this is awesome. So the first order of business, Madam Clerk.
is the flag salute and moment of silence.
And at this point, I'd like to ask us all to stand, and we're going to ask Counselor O'Neill to lead the salute to the flag. The flag is right there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business, Madam Clerk.
First order of business is oral communications.
The public shall have the opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter shall be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident will be notified within the 2-week period relative to the disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the city council. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to ask for people here to have the first opportunity. If you wish to speak for any matter that is not on the agenda, you have up to 3 minutes. And Joanne, if you can time and let people know with a 10-second notice, and just say time, that would be great. So I see we have Jeff Brown. Come on up, Jeff, and introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes to talk to us for anything that is not on the agenda. Welcome.
Thank you. I brought my own timer too, so let's see how that works. Yes, my name's Jeff Brown. I live at 145 Essex Ave. And I wrote a letter that I like to read today. I think it's a fair letter, which is why I chose to read it. And I will have copies near the exit if anybody would like to take one home. The title is, Has Gilman Betrayed Us? The Truth Behind Dogtown. When City Council President Valerie Gilman was sworn in, she pledged to impartially carry out her duties for the residents of this city. However, her actions regarding Dogtown, which is located in her own Ward 4, seem to contradict this commitment. As both an abutter to Dogtown and a member of the City Council, Ms. Gilman holds a seat on the Dogtown Preservation Commission, DPC, and served on the Dogtown Advisory Committee, DAC, from 2017 to 2019. I've been very involved with all the initiatives to keep Dogtown the way it is. That's what we want to do. We really don't want to make it any different than what it is. Ms. Gilman told a skeptical group of about 20 members of the public at last October's DPC meeting. However, DAC meeting minutes tell a different story. These notes reveal that Ms. Gilman had a letter of request to the mayor to define Dogtown as a public park, a proposed ordinance to define Dogtown as a public park with rules and regulations, and that she told the committee that it needs a council order with police approval for rules of use for Dogtown's trails and open spaces, just as the city has rules of use for parks, beaches, quarries, and parking lots. Additionally, in sharp contradiction to Ms. Gilman's stance on truly preserving Dogtown, is the Dogtown ordinance she produced in May 2019. May 2019, yeah. This ordinance proposes the use of grant funds with their prerequisite strings to undertake restorations that have yet to be clearly understood by tax-paying citizens. The dissemination of information about Dogtown, which is also part of Ms. Gilman's ordinance, would undoubtedly invite further change. It appears that City Council President Valerie Gilman's actions concerning Dogtown contradict her commitment to preserving it. Moreover, residents may want to keep in mind the relatively undisclosed fact that Ms. Gilman is an abutter to the area. This raises further questions about whether her actions are truly in the best interest of the community, or if her personal interests may be affecting her decisions related to Dogtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And everyone, just to let you know, Our policy is that whatever anyone says are not debatable. Okay, so that is our rule, and I just want you to know that. So thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing that. Suzanne, state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak to us.
Yes,
Welcome.
Susanna Altenburger, 66 Atlantic Street. You all know what I'm all about. My late husband, Phil Boulder, all born and bred Gloucester, designed boats for 57 years. And he and I got together decades ago. And in our work, we noticed that our fishing fleet has suffered a grave tragedy from a fleet structural perspective. It's all about boats. We're always about boats. Federal rules froze the industry in time as of 1994. Any industry frozen in time for almost 30 years will not do very well. And as America's oldest fishing boat, we're celebrating our 400th anniversary, but we're doing so without any modern fishing fleet allowed by federal code. I've had a chance to speak with the mayor about this. He's given a gracious amount of time to this. I would propose this council to be the first council in the history of these 29 years worth of darkness for the industry, growing darkness, that maybe this council would be the first to express a perspective of support and how we can change it. Because this is not some political left-wing, right-wing thing. This is all based on federal errors, certain judgment issues, not because we're so smart, but because they really didn't have the right staffers to write these rules that affected the industry. So I think this council has a chance to speak and say, as representative of all the wards of Gloucester, we have an interest in seeing this fleet thrive again. As you may have heard, there's some conversations going on the state level. I've certainly talked with folks on the federal level. There would be, I believe, a welcoming atmosphere to say, yes, let's move on. Let's turn the page, start writing a new chapter. And to that end, I've given you all some homework. I'm going to share it with the city clerks, Messinos. I've given 5 copies times 10. You've seen them all in the Gloucester Daily Times over the last year. I do, by the way, want to emphasize it's good to have a constructive editor. Andrea Holbrook is the first editor who's ever let this subject matter be covered in the Gloucester Daily Times. So everybody should read the newspaper, and let's see how constructive we can all be by working together on this tragedy, which we can fix. These are things we actually can fix this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next person. Welcome, Ann.
Hello, you all. It's nice to see you in person. And it's nice to see so much orange this month. We're very fortunate here in Gloucester. My name is Ann Strong. I live at 44 Crafts Road, and I am here to speak again about the need for deep water on Rust Island for fire protection. We had, since the last council meeting and the last time any of us spoke, we had a very productive meeting, about 4 of us, with Councillor Nolan, some of the mayor's staff, Suzanne Egan, Jill Cahill, and the mayor himself. It all went very well. We're very pleased with the progress we're making, and we hope that you'll be hearing more about water on Rust Island, and we'll be open to that. So things are progressing since first we spoke on April 25th, and we're very encouraged and very relieved that maybe we will get some relief for fire protection on Rust Island. So thank you for your attention over these months. We're going to keep talking so you don't forget about us, but we're not going to talk as much as we once did. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ann. Anyone else like to speak for any matter that's not on the agenda? Name and address.
My name is Linda Anderson. I live at 2 Dalton Ave in Gloucester. I'm very nervous. I'm not prepared. This is spontaneous. I just want to say something about the youth mental health crisis is very real. I have myself organized a mental health program, a writing workshop for middle schoolers. I actually was privileged to do it at O'Malley, not this last summer, but the summer before. I donated my time. I paid for the materials myself. The mental health crisis for youth in America is a very real thing. And I guess I just want to come up here and say, what you can do for the youth of Gloucester, you're doing for Gloucester. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Beth Ilgis. I live at 31 Bass Ave. I'd like to thank the Open Door, since we're here honoring them. I'd like to thank the Open Door for what they do. We have many paras, GAPE members that have to frequent the Open Door. I'd also like to thank the Fuel Assistance Program because we have many members that also have to use fuel assistance because they're not making enough money to live off of. We would also have a lot more people here, but they all have, a lot of them have second jobs just to get by. I'd also like to thank Tracy O'Neill because she says she supports us. Thank you.
I'd just like to note that John Dunn has joined our meeting. He is our CFO. Okay, go ahead. I let the first person speak, not knowing that it was a person that's a para. So I will take the next two people that are speaking. So go ahead. You have the floor. Thank you. Name
Well,
and address.
hello, my name is Laurie Johns. I live at 44 Lexington Ave. I have been a resident homeowner for over 40 years in Gloucester. I didn't grow up in Gloucester, but I think I fit in just fine. My kids went to public schools and, you know, they were able to get great educations. I was able to be home with my children, to be able to let them participate in all the wonderful activities that Gloucester has to offer. What I want to talk about is, you know, when there's surplus of money going around, I'm looking in concern about places that are really being developed a lot, and all the money, it seems that there's extra money. It says in the past 5 years, Gloucester revenues average $1.9 million more than budgeted. But it also says 4.3 million in certified free cash as of 12/2022 that the city can spend anywhere it likes. And I think that you need to, my kids can't afford to really, I have one that lives in Gloucester. The other two cannot afford to live in their hometown. And it breaks their heart and it breaks my heart too. You know, not being able to go to Gloucester beaches without paying $30. So what I'm saying is, I know that we take good care of our police, our firefighters. Everybody deserves a fair living wage. And I just want you to just look at the city as a whole and try to include the whole city in letting them be able to maybe make Gloucester their home, because that's where I feel when I come here. I feel like I'm at home. So thank you.
Name and address.
Yes, Matthew Lewis, 356 Forest Street. I stand tonight to say a public thanks to many of my colleagues. I am a teacher in Gloucester Public Schools, and we have developed a new civics curriculum that discusses town meetings, town ordinances, state ordinances, and I would just like to publicly recognize my fellow educators for promoting democracy and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I'd like to go to the Zoom and see if anyone that is zoomed in has a hand raised, Madam Clerk. There's one person. So for the person that's calling in right now, if you can state your name and your address, and you have up to 3 minutes to address our city council for matters not on the agenda.
Hello, good evening. My name is Saltanat Pertikeva. Me and my husband, Peter Johnson, are homeowners at 33 Middle Street in Gloucester.
Point of order, I'm sorry. I can't hear this person.
Yeah, could you speak a little bit more into your microphone or your?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
That's better. Okay, we're trying to turn down the fan a little bit, but go ahead. If you could start again, we kind of missed the first part and we'd like to get everything loud and clear. So
yes, hi, my name is Saltanat Pertikeva. My husband, Peter Johnson, and I are homeowners at 33 Middle Street in Gloucester. We are direct abutters to the proposed 20 Main Street development project. We were not informed about this development by the city and accidentally learned about it from the neighbors about a month ago, while the development has undergone approval by the ZBA and the Historic District Commission over the past roughly 7 months. ZBA and the Community Development Department in the city of Gloucester did not give us any notices to attend the public hearings about the proposed development, but granted the special variances to the developer anyway, making it much closer to us and giving height relief. Currently, a Middle Street condo is challenging the ZBA setback relief for the 20 Main Street development. We submitted to the City Council, Mayor Berger, the Planning Department, a petition with 996 signatures of Gloucester residents and voters to stop the 20 Main Street development. The city has been less than transparent about building such a giant development on Main Street, including the homeowners being directly affected by it who were never informed about it. Most people on Main Street and Middle Street and broader Gloucester did not know about the proposed project, and we are deeply frustrated that such a big building was being approved without proper public engagement and participation. We as residents and homeowners in Gloucester do not feel protected by the city officials. We, the signatories of the petition opposing the 20 Main Street development, communicated to the city council members that we would be closely watching how they will handle this development if it comes to their agenda and what legacy they will choose to leave behind them. The pro-development attitude at all costs at the expense of the safety and well-being of downtown residents, including our home, which is part of the historic district, but it feels like anything that can happen to the building by the next door development will not matter to the Historic District Commission or to the city. And we guarantee as downtown residents and homeowners that this will be this out of control development that is being pushed without properly informing the neighborhood will be the focal point of the next election. We are establishing a downtown neighborhood group. Hopefully
10 minutes, 10 seconds, if you would mind, just
Thank
to
you.
be
Our
aware.
new group will make numerous development projects with minimal public participation a major issue going forward. So we thank you for your attention and hope you'll consider our concern regarding this development.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you participating. Anyone else that's calling in remotely that would like to speak? Wait a sec. What is going on, Counselor?
I'd like to speak.
That's out of order. We don't, this is for
Citizen.
this is for the public. No, this is not, this is out of order.
Citizen.
Counselor O'Hara, this is out of order.
Citizen.
You are out of order. Okay,
name's
you may
James O'Hara.
speak. I have been overruled, so.
My name's
you have
James
the-
O'Hara, 55 Lexington Avenue. I'm here tonight to thank our mayor for assisting our constituent, Ward 2 constituent, Fatima Silva on School Street. She was burned out over a year ago. I was brought into this 2 weeks ago to help. She was having problems. I immediately reached out to the mayor through text messages and email messages, numerous text messages and email messages to the mayor, which he responded. This past week, I received an email from the city solicitor that I was shocked to receive that email. It was strong-arming me, telling me I couldn't reach out to anybody, anyone within the city. I reached out to the city building inspector, the electrical inspector to be exact, at the request of National Grid. I was absolutely shocked. She reached out to the wrong person with that email. After consultation with my own private attorney, he felt that it was best for me to address it publicly because it would never get through the paperwork shuffle of this city. Those techniques didn't work against James O'Hara, and I hope, and I'm here tonight because I know there are other people within the city employees that they won't stand up for themselves. The strong arming tactics of the city solicitor and others within the administration, because she was not involved. in the emails or text messages. So she was directed to send that email to me. That has to end, and it has to end today. This is a democracy. This is America. We don't rule with an iron fist, and it's got to end. Thank you.
My name is Tracy O'Neill. I live at 12 Friend Street. I would just like to follow up on Councilor O'Hara's statement. I too got a letter from the city solicitor telling me that I cannot reach out to any public employee. And I felt that it was being strong-armed and bullied, actually. So I reached out to the fire inspector just to ask him some questions about what was going on. This poor woman has been without a home for over a year, and she had no idea what was going on. The fire inspector was gracious. He came down right away, told us what was happening. I did not have a problem with anything that was being done or anything that the fire inspector said. He did have issues with the contractor, and I really felt that it was an overreach of government just shutting me down from doing my job. So please don't tie our hands. Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak for up to 3 minutes for matters not on the agenda? Madam Clerk? CR, if you would introduce yourself and your address, and you have up to 3 minutes to talk to us about matters not on the agenda. You have the floor.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, this is Catherine Ryan, 17 High Rock Terrace. On this night, calling attention to Open Door and the cause of hunger and underserved in our community, and the important equity and humanist statement I wholeheartedly concur with that you start the city council meetings with now. I have not received a response to my oral communications to either city council or school committee from May of this year, nor following the incidents with George Floyd. So I'm repeating them today, September 12th, 2023. The Gloucester Public School District enrollment plummeted from 2010 to 2019. In 2010, it was 3372. The current year enrollment for the high school is 804. On any given day last year, the second half of the year, over 250 kids could be absent. Why don't they want to be there? The GPS percentage of graduates heading to college, graduating high school, and school attendance has also plummeted. And since my comments in May, US News and World Report published that our district dropped further. 18% of Gloucester High School are college ready. No, it's not the pandemic. No, it's not the birth rate. No, it's not Gloucester School District is a comprehensive one. When Gloucester is described as a blue collar community or comprehensive district and described by the same leadership as its demographics, that's the reason for all the problems they bring. Well, it's devastating to hear such dog whistles when the evidence of results right there is grim. When a former superintendent who still has a seat on building committees is saying, oh, I hate to see it if it only wasn't for quote unquote our Hispanics, it's social class prejudice from members of the leadership and the conflicts and perceived conflicts of interest I've been speaking about. Wanting the best education for your child is not bound by income. Egregious and racist comments espoused by leadership on the school committee, the school administration, and even by ZBA applicants before the city council, which many of you would not support but do not say anything, have harmed our district and have taken a toll. Please address the accountability at the city leadership level, at the school district leadership level. There has been and continues to be zero accountability, censures, expulsions, resignations, or apologies. Please halt the consolidation plans for Beaman and Plum Cove as well. Thank you.
Would you state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Marianne Boucher, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. You already broke the rules in regards to this, so I feel that I can speak. I was a para. I worked within the school system. I know what it takes to be in that school and to be with those children and to help them each and every day. We just built a beautiful $70 million school to house these people and the children. You need them as much as you all said you needed this brand new school. It's not just the educational goals that need to be met. Take a look in the room. The children need them. If you don't support them, then you're not supporting the children. Thank you.
The next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is the presentation from Mayor Verga for the introduction of the Public Health Director, Dominique Hurley.
Mayor Verga, come on up and look forward to this introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. It's really strange to be here. I haven't been through my whole administration. This has not happened. So welcome back to City Hall. I'm proud today and pleased today to be introducing our new health director, Dominique Hurley. We've been in search of a health director for a while now. My colleagues around the state have been having difficulty filling some management positions.
Point of order, please. Point of order. We have business to. Point of order. Point of order. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that little break there. So where was I? Talking about our health director. So we've been having trouble throughout the state, my colleagues, other mayors, filling positions because it is a tough labor market. But we're fortunate that we now have Dominique Hurley as our health director. She started on August 28th. I think I introduced her to several of you over the last week or so. And this was a collaborative effort with the Board of Health. Joe Rosa will be speaking after me to do a little further introduction of Dominique. But she has an extensive background in the healthcare, biotech, and pharmaceutical business. And she has extensive leadership skills, which is what we are needing strongly over there at the Pond Road facility. So with that, I would like to hand it over to our chair of the Board of Health, Joe Rosa, and then stay tuned because you'll be meeting Dominique Hurley officially. Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, Joe Rosa.
Thank you. And it's nice to be back in a shiny auditorium again. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the health department is very small department that does an awful lot. Everything from inspectional services to your food, as you well know, the beaches, as well as environmental and public health. That's also a responsibility of the department. We still have, despite having a lot of sewers that serve the city well, we still have 3,000 septic systems in the city. And they need to be up to stuff and pass various regulations when properties are sold. So all of that goes on is done by a relatively small department that is extremely well trained. They do a terrific job. However, for the past few months, I guess it is, they've been without a director. Fortunately, we can thank Jill for standing in among all her other jobs. She stood in as acting manager for those 3 months and did a terrific job. I and the staff are grateful for what Jill did. But now we have a new director, a real director that's going to work full time. And I think you're going to be very pleased with the city will be very pleased with having her on board. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the new director of the Health Department, Dominique Hurley.
Welcome, Dominique.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Verga. Thank you, Chairman Rosa. Nice to meet you all, city councilors and all the members of the community that are online and here in person. I'm Dominique Hurley, and I'm honored to be here and have this role serving our community. I'm very excited about the work I'm going to do. And just by way of introduction, to give you a little sense of who I am, my entire career has been spent in healthcare, helping patients, physicians, payers, pharmacies, and pharmaceutical companies connect and create care ecosystems. And so what that requires is that you have a really good idea of all the roles and functions of all those folks that are surrounding the patient, the information that's moving around them, the work that has to be done to offer proper care, and then on the back end, all of the information and technology that's supporting all of that. So my entire career has been spent looking at operations, looking at business process, trying to bring efficiencies, trying to make things simple so that communications can happen in a more meaningful fashion in the healthcare arena. And I'm hoping that I can bring those skills to bear in this group to work better for this city. As Joe said, there's an incredible department in place right now. There's people that are working really hard every day. And I've just been so impressed by how much they've been able to do with, varied leadership as they've been pressing through the last few months and year. So I'm hoping that I'm able to, bring to that team some great leadership, some good perspective, perhaps some fresh perspective on how we can operate efficiently and effectively for the citizens of Gloucester. And I'm going to be working really hard to be sure that the open roles that we have on our team, the current team in place, and even myself will continue to learn, train, and offer the best in public health to our community and to our surrounding communities as well. So I look forward to meeting you all in other forums, and I can't wait to really make a difference for the community. Thanks.
Councilors, do you have any questions for Dominique? Just welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
The next order of business is City Council September Hunger Month, proclamation.
So excited to have Sarah Grow and Julie LaFontaine here, and we'd love you to come up to the podium and tell us about this exciting month of September. You do so much for our community, and we so much appreciate it.
So good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you. It's nice to see all the orange. So the Open Doors mission is to alleviate the impact of hunger in our community, but that mission is powered by people in this community, just like you. So we appreciate you putting on the orange for Hunger Action Month, which is a call to action to raise awareness for the issue of hunger. It's a time to roll up our sleeves. It's a time to donate. You can host a food drive. You can volunteer. There are a lot of businesses that are participating, and I'll get in trouble if I start trying to list them all, but on our website, foodpantry.org, you'll see a list of participating businesses that have created orange items on their menus. Restaurants have created orange items on their menus. And so we really invite you to join us for Hunger Action Month because really, truly, the Open Door has grown up out of the heart of this community. When life happens, we're here to help together. And so it is my pleasure to be here along with my colleague, Sarah Grow, and we're hoping we can get a picture of this sea of orange.
Thank you so much. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to present you both with a proclamation, and then we're going to do a picture. And then we're going to ask you to help us cut the beautiful cake that we have in honor of this
Thank you.
hunger awareness. I'm so honored to be here to be able to read this proclamation, which all of us have signed on the city council, and to be with this wonderful leader, Julie LaFontaine, and Sarah Grow, who does so much for the Open Door. We're so grateful to have so many wonderful volunteers in our city in this great leadership. So the proclamation to commemorate September 2023 as Hunger Action Month. Whereas the Open Door will paint the town orange for Hunger Action Month to raise awareness about the reality of food insecurity right here in the communities where we live, work, and play. Whereas the Open Door has already seen a 28% increase in visits to its food pantries alone in 2023, and a 20% increase in people visiting its pantries. Whereas the Open Door helped stabilize the lives and health of 8,436 people from 4,872 households throughout the distribution of 1.78 million pounds of food. Whereas the Open Door uses practical strategies to connect people to good food, to advocate on behalf of those in need, and to engage others in the work of building food security. Whereas our community is asked to take the lead to Sport Orange this September to raise awareness, including our Gloucester City Council at tonight's September 12th, 2023 meeting, Gloucester Police Department Community Impact Unit, Core Peer Recovery and Resource Center, and many, many businesses in Gloucester. Whereas our City Hall will be lit up with orange lights to raise awareness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gloucester City Council declares the month of September as Hunger Action Month, signed by this full house of all nine counselors. We're just so proud of you, and I'd like to give this to you, Julie LaFontaine and Sarah, and then we'd love to do a photo op that we never had a chance to do as a full council here in this auditorium. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Counselors and Joanne, let's take a picture, and Grace is going to take a picture. She's gonna take a picture.
How you doing?
No. Oh, we're gonna do that at the end.
Diabetic friendly. Gluten, diabetic. Eat more food right.
Other way.
You're gonna have, oh, you can't. Oh, sure. Sorry. Where's my gavel?
All right.
Tracy's got your gavel.
Tracy, do you hold my gavel?
Why is it here?
Oh, do you want to take over, Jeff?
No, I did not put that there. I did not put that there. How did it get here?
I put it there.
Why?
Somebody put it on my desk, so I put it.
You guys are funny. All right,
I got up and had a piece of cake, and there's a gavel with it.
everybody's back. We're ready to continue. Thank you so much, Open Door, for all you do. Yay.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes.
You'd asked if we could each say something about, I don't know if you still want to do that, about the open door. You mentioned that to me last week.
Sure, but let's make it brief. Okay, so
Sure.
Scott, would you like to say something about the Open Door?
My mouth full of chocolate cake. I'm very fortunate. We are all, as a community, we're all very fortunate for the job that Julie and her team do for all of us here in Gloucester. It's a shame that we have the food needs that we do in the community, but it's wonderful that we have the resources to try and do our best to help address them. And there's so many volunteers. many of them counselors here who are helping you every day to do your mission. Carry on.
Thank you. Go ahead, Council Worthley.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. First, thank you to Julie and thank you to Sarah. Julie, I've known you for 27 years, maybe. I volunteered at the food pantry many years ago. I was working at the Chamber of Commerce with you when you had your first empty bowl event at the Elks, and it was an honor to be part of that. But there's a little story I'll tell quickly that most people don't know here. Julie knows it. When my children were 2 and 3 years old, their mother was going through something that made it incompatible with being married, and that's the best way I can say it. And I found myself being a single dad of a 2 and 3 year old, literally overnight, and had full custody for about a year. And I had made enough money that I couldn't get on any assistance, but I was out of money because I was heartbroken and raising 2 children as a single dad. And I went to the food pantry, and I didn't go there as a volunteer. I didn't go there as a city leader. I didn't go there for a photo op. I went there as a customer, a consumer needing help. And there was a lot of emotions, and a lot of them were unfounded in terms of stigma and concern and worry about what people might think. Your staff was excellent. Specifically, Sarah was amazing in making me feel comfortable in being a customer. And it made the difference in putting food on the table for my kids. And we made a big turnaround thanks to the food pantry being there at a time of need. So you will always have my appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Council O'Neill.
Wow, how do I follow up that? Julie, I've known you for eons, and I remember when you first started out at the Open Door, and kudos to you. I've just really met Sarah, but you've really grown it to quite an operation, so congratulations, and thank you for helping our community very much.
Jason Grow.
So I get to wake up proud every morning for the work that my wife does. And Julie, you and your staff, your crew, it is unbelievable how you manage to operate daily. You can turn on a dime. What you did during the pandemic should be a case study, I think, for how organizations adapt to traumatic change and never miss a day of service in doing so. It was tremendous. It was amazing to watch. It was amazing to be a part of. Again, I am proud every day when my wife walks out the door. I know she's doing good work. I know you're doing good work. And I will say right now, as a little pitch for fundraising, that when you give money to the Open Door, you are literally helping your friends, your family, your neighbors, directly to your community. So I know there are a lot of wonderful charities out there, a lot of wonderful organizations to give money to, but if you want to make sure that your dollar affects people in your community, the Open Door is feeding people every single day, and they do it without judgment, with love, and with generosity, and it's an amazing thing to watch. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Council Nolan.
Julie, I got the pleasure of meeting you about 9 years ago through the city. I started helping out with the Open Door a long time ago with Helen Muse in the Magnolia Lions Club and hosting dinners once a month. And it was a fun time and a lot of camaraderie down there. And then it was a disconnect from working and raising my own family and jobs and stuff. But I feel as though it's one of the best help places in the city of Gloucester, delivering meals on holidays during COVID. I had fun doing that. It was interesting seeing people. What you guys do is right up there with our fire and police department in protecting the city, except you protect them from hunger. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Jamie.
Thank you to the Open Door. As has already been said, you've done wonderful things throughout the city and throughout the North Shore, expanding your horizons and coverage to people in need, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Frank?
Hi, Julie. Hi, Sarah. I've known you for about 2 years now. It's been great. So yeah, the Open Door is a great organization. Really, if you have a chance to volunteer and see what we do, it's amazing work, how we reach people. We deliver food. We have a mobile market. We service communities, Manchester, Essex, Gloucester, Ipswich, Rockport. We work with the community colleges, North Shore Community College, and it's great work. Everyone that works there goes to work with a smile every single day. We have great leadership who come to work, smile, and go down and do the dirty work with us. Every day when we need people packing groceries, loading a truck, they're there. They don't care rain or shine or snow. They're helping everybody. So it's just a great organization. Very proud to be a part of it, and thank you for everything you do.
Tony? Gross.
Yes, you really, as everyone said, you can't say enough about the Open Door. I retired, and then the pandemic hit, and I decided I would volunteer at the Open Door. Why not, right? And it just, to watch that juggernaut of a machine adapt and evolve and just continue to serve people with nutrition that they so desperately needed was just a sight to behold. It was amazing. The people there are just phenomenal. They're angels. It is such a privilege to be able to volunteer there and to help people that that do not feel at all ashamed to come there because they are so welcome. And it's treated matter of fact. How can we help you? What can we do? The staff is absolutely unbelievable, has been said, and getting to know them all is truly a privilege in my life. So I just really thank you so much for being there, and thank you for the community. And I hope anyone who needs it, please come there. There's no means testing. You are just welcome, no questions asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And I would just like to wrap up this conversation to let you both know how meaningful it was when my son Jared and I worked at the Open Door all through his years at O'Malley. Every Friday afternoon, all year round, we worked the pantry, and it was one of the best things I ever did with my son. He learned so much about helping others, and you were amazing leaders and continue to be, because you always made us feel important, even when we were prepping some of the fish that came in or the lettuce or whatever. You'd come over and sometimes say, what are your suggestions? So you were always asking your workers on ways to improve, and that comes from the top, and you inspire people to work on behalf of the Open Door. So thank you. And thank you for letting us celebrate this important month of September. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the consent agenda.
Councilors, is there anything that we would like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Nolan, seconded by Councilor Memard. We don't need to do a roll call vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. We also have a unanimous consent agenda tonight. Everyone's clear on what the unanimous consent agenda is? I will be clear to members of the public. The unanimous consent agenda is a memorandum from mayor requesting an amendment to Gloucester Code of Ordinances regarding allowing vehicles with veterans plates to park for free at meters or lots, and that is to be referred to O&A. Is there a motion to approve the unanimous consent?
So moved.
A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No noes. The ayes have it. Unanimous consent agenda passes. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the Budget and Finance Standing Committee report of September 7th.
I will turn the meeting over to Councilor Scott Memard, who chairs BNF.
Thank you very much, Councilor Gilman. We have just a couple of items here, some housekeeping in the budgetary arena of the city. The first item from Budget and Finance from our meeting last week is a memorandum from the Public Works Director requesting payment of a number of fiscal year 2023 National Grid invoices using fiscal year 2024 funds. Again, this, as I said, is a housekeeping issue where these invoices were received. They were incurred last year, but they weren't properly processed to the point from National Grid. Don't we all wish that they took their time with our bills as well? But the city has a problem getting them to bill them on a timely basis. And so we have a number of invoices before us, which I'm not going to go through individually, but they total $94,829.94. And I'll read the motion. On a motion by myself, seconded by Councilor Gross, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council, in accordance with Mass General Law 4454, approve payment of prior year invoices from National Grid for electrical services to various city buildings and streets for the purpose of paying the following invoices to be paid with fiscal year 2024 General Fund, DPW, and Dorothy Talbot Rink Enterprise Fund budgeted funds for a total, as I mentioned, of $97,829.44. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard, seconded by Council Worthley. Is there discussion or further narrative, Council Memard?
I think it's unfortunately a housekeeping adjustment. It seems like a large magnitude, but we're just paying our bills that are going through the process of being properly posted.
Thank you. Further discussion, councilors, on the motion? Seeing none, we don't need a roll call vote. So all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion passes 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business, Council Memard.
The next item and then the item beyond that are also the same housekeeping catch-up. This one is for a smaller amount, $1,088.90. And on a motion by myself, seconded by Councilor Worthley, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council, in accordance with Mass General Law 4464, approve payment of prior year invoices from Sprague Operating Resources for the purpose of paying an invoice number as noted, dated July 10th, 2023, to be paid with fiscal year 2024 General Fund, DPW, and Dorothy Talbot Rink Enterprise Fund budgeted funds for a total of $1,088.90. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard, seconded by Councilor Gross. Is there a discussion? Council Memard, further narrative?
Again, just the same housekeeping.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business, Council Memard.
The next order is another memorandum from our Assistant Public Works Director requesting payment of a 2023 invoice, again with 2024 funds. And on a motion by Councilor Memhard, seconded by Councilor Gross, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council, in accordance with Mass General Law 4464, approve payment of a prior year invoice from Pine Ridge Technologies for repair and maintenance performed on the city's streetlights during the period June 21st, 2023, for the purpose of paying invoice number as noted, dated June 29th, 2022, to be paid with fiscal year 2024 General Fund, DPW budgeted funds, account number as noted, DPW Central Services Energy, for a total of $16,434.70. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard, seconded by Councilor Worthley. Is there further discussion? Councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business.
Our next item from Budget and Finance Committee was a presentation by Sal DiStefano, our Economic Development Director, and Carol Mondello, who manages the volunteers at the Welcoming Center at Stage Fort Park. And it's a memorandum from Sal requesting acceptance of Gloucester Essex National Heritage Commission grant for the 2023-2024 season in the amount of $2,500. I'll go ahead and read the motion. A motion by myself, seconded by Councilor Gross. Budget and Finance Committee voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Councilor Worthley was absent at that moment. To recommend that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A a federal grant from the National Park Service passed through the Essex National Heritage Commission, a 2023 Essex Heritage Visitor Center grant for a total of $2,500 for the purpose of supporting activities of the city's Visitor Welcome Center at the Stage Fort Park. The grant period is from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and there is no local match for this grant, and I so move.
Second.
Motion made by Council Memard, seconded by Council Gross. Is there further discussion?
I would just mention that Carol Mondello spoke of the incredible season that our Welcoming Center at Stage 4 Park has seen this past year. I think she reported visitors passing through and getting information from some 40 of our 50 states and many, many international visitors. And she expressed her appreciation and her volunteers' appreciation for the things that this funding support allows them to do.
Great, thank you. Further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Council Worthley.
Yes. Before my mother was a Worthley, she was a Mondello. I've cleared that there's no conflict of interest in me voting on that. I just want to disclose that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
I have one more here. I
Oh,
think.
right, I'm sorry. Council Memard, back to you. You have the floor.
Final item, which is a memorandum from our Director of Elder Services, Elise Sinagra, requesting our acceptance of donations in the total amount of $325. And on a motion by myself, seconded by Councilor Gross, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council accept various cash donations under Mass General Law 4453A to support the Council on Aging in the total amount of $325 from the following members within our community. And they are Dolores Mack, Peter Tarbox, Marilyn Grant, Jerry Favaloro, Juanita Guerin, Christopher Newbert, and James Niles for a total of $325. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard. I think it was Council Gross again. Oh, Council Majota. Is there a discussion, councilors?
Just thank you to Elise and thank you for all the support that she gets for the programming at our Rose Baker Senior Center and their operations.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
I just want to mention that the Ordinance Administration Committee did not meet on September 4th due to the holidays. So the next item would be the Planning and Development Standing Committee report of September 6th.
Councilor Grow.
Thank you very much, Council President. We have nothing to vote on tonight, but just so the council is apprised, Councilor Worthley requested, after a negative recommendation from the Planning Board, to have his City Council Order 2023-044 to amend Gloucester zoning ordinance regarding parking downtown to be withdrawn. So the subcommittee voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent to accept the withdrawal without prejudice of that City Council order.
Thank you, Councilor Grow. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the first scheduled public hearing 2023-043 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Boards, Committees, and Commissions by deleting Division 10A, Disability Rights Commission in its entirety, amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Boards, Committees, and Commissions, Division 8, Human Rights Commission by amending Section 2-497, Established Terms Compensation, and Section 2-499, Purposes, and delete Section 2-500, Powers and Duties, and adding a new Section 2-500, Disability Rights Subcommittee.
I'd like to open the public hearing and ask if anybody would like to come up and speak in favor of this matter. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to, that has their hand raised, Madam Clerk?
No, Suzanne Egan does.
Suzanne Egan.
Mhm.
I'm Suzanne Egan, our General Counsel. You have the floor.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you very much, members of the City Council. This is before you tonight as an amendment to the Code of Ordinances to bring the Human Rights Commission section of the ordinance into alignment with its true purposes, to provide human rights education and advocacy within our community. What the ordinance does is it essentially, I'll give you an overview of it. It reduces the numbers of the members of commission so that because as it stands now, it's at 9, and there is an issue with gaining a quorum at times, so it reduces those numbers to 7. It also adds 2 non-voting student members to participate in the commission and 1 ex officio member. It keeps the same policies and provisions as the original ordinance. One of the things that it does is it eliminates the Human Rights Commission's role to work as a investigatory committee. Instead, it provides that the Human Rights Commission will provide education and work to provide the civil rights and community for all people in the city of Gloucester. The other thing it does is it is a little housekeeping matter, whereas currently Division 10A is a separate section of the Code of Ordinances that says that the Human Rights Commission will have a subcommittee that is the Disability Rights Commission. So we've done cleanup and we've added a section of the Human Rights Commission to say that they may have a disability rights subcommission. So we're combining that ordinance and eliminating the Disability Rights Commission provision of the ordinance. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Suzanne. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Seeing none, anyone like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, is there any correspondences or communications, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
Counselors, do you have any questions to ask before we close the public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to ask for the committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. On a motion by Council Nolan, seconded by Council Majota, the Ordinance and Administration Committee voted by roll call 3 in favor, 0 opposed to recommend the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Board, Committees, and Commissions. Division 8, Human Rights Commission, Section 2-497. A, establish terms, compensation, Section 2-499, purpose, and Section 2-500, powers and duties as follows. Section 2-497, establish terms and compensation. A, there, add, is hereby established. The, delete, shall be in the City Commission known as the Gloucester Human Rights Commission. Delete hereinafter, called the Commission, which shall consist, add, Commission, consistent of delete 9, add 7. Members appointed by the mayor and approved by the City Council to serve without compensation. Delete the commission, add there, may, add, also be, delete, have, in addition, 1 alternative member. Delete, appointed by the mayor and approved by the City Council, and 1 ex officio member selected by the majority vote of the commissioners. Add, and 2 non-voting student members. A student member is defined as an individual currently enrolled in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, but not older than 22. Residing in Gloucester, including those enrolled in General Education Development or GED program. Section 2-499, purpose. Delete. The purpose of the commission shall be to add. The commission shall act as an advisory committee to the mayor and work to enhance equal justice, inclusivity, and human rights for all members of our community. Delete 1, improve the life of the city by enlisting individuals and community-based groups in education programs and campaigns to increase mutual self-respect, harmonious intergroup relations, and the peaceful enjoyment of life in our diverse community. Add 1, the commission shall serve as a resource to the city of Gloucester and the public. The commission may provide education and support on human rights, diversity, and inclusivity, with a goal of raising awareness and sensitivity to matters of human and civil rights. Delete 2, assist persons in the city who believes that the human or civil rights, as defined by existing local, Commonwealth, and federal law, have been violated in the city by providing voluntary mediation for all the parties concerned and informing such people of local, Commonwealth, and federal agencies available to address their grievances. And add 2, the commission may provide the public with contacts to agents in the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination and other appropriate federal, state, and local agencies. Delete 3, work with all city departments, including the school department, commissions, and boards, to increase compliance with the appropriate local, Commonwealth, and federal laws, and to raise the level of awareness and sensitivity to human rights issues in municipal business with the public. Add 3, the commission may conduct ongoing campaigns and host free public events each year to facilitate public education on diversity, discrimination, and inclusive community building as relevant to Gloucester. Add 4, improve the life of city by enlisting individuals and community-based groups in educational programs and campaigns to increase mutual self-respect, harmonious intergroup relations, and the peaceful enjoyment of life in our diverse community. Add 5, to promote the full integration and participation of people with disabilities in the city activities, services, and employment opportunities or the community, and to coordinate or carry out programs in coordination with programs in the Massachusetts Office of Disability. Add 6, the commission shall not operate as an adjudicatory or an investigative body. Delete in its entirety Section 2(500), Section 2(500) powers and duties. The powers and duties of the commission shall include the following: to support and assist all city departments, including the school department, commissions, and boards, in their efforts to celebrate in the diversity of the city, promote tolerance, and comply with the appropriate local, Commonwealth, and federal laws. 2, to publish reports and other documents. 3, to provide a public forum for hearing complaints and answers thereto in matters of alleged discrimination, and to resolve such complaints by mediation. No party to any alleged discrimination shall be compelled to appear before the commission, nor such party shall be compelled to submit to mediation. 4, to refer complaints to the appropriate local, Commonwealth, or federal agency to address their grievances. 5, to publish an annual report of the state of the human rights in the city drawn from its own resources, as well as records of other city departments, including the school department. And 6, to render the mayor, the city council, and the school committee a full written report of its activities and its recommendations, not less than once a year. And add Section -2-500, Disability Rights Subcommittee. The commission may establish a Disability Rights Subcommittee for the purpose of promoting the full integration and participation of people with disabilities in city activities, services and employment opportunities of the community, and to coordinate and carry out programs in coordination with the programs of the Massachusetts Office of Disability. And I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made by Counselor Nolan, seconded by Counselor Grow. Is there a discussion, counselors? Would you like to do the narrative, Counselor Nolan?
We had some talk at the ordinance administration on this, and there was some concerns from some of the people that thought that the disability end of it was actually going to be left out. And after our meeting and discussion with Suzanne Egan and different members of the Human Rights Commission and the actual wording in this, people felt very confident that this was a great addition to the Human Rights Committee. And I believe so as well with the addition of the Disability Rights Commission Subcommittee.
Great, thank you. Further discussion, counselors, on the motion? Council Grow.
Thank you. As the council representative on the Human Rights Commission, I endorse this change. I think it cleans up a lot of language that gave a lot of lack of clarity as to what the mission of the Human Rights Commission was all about. Focuses their mission, it focuses their responsibilities, but I'm mostly excited about the addition of the 2 high school students to the commission, which I think is going to be a really important addition. I think it's something that is great for the Human Rights Commission. It'd be nice if we could integrate people, teenage, high schoolers into other boards and commissions at some point to begin to engender a sense of civic involvement and pride. So I'm really happy that the Human Rights Commission is moving forward with this. I really recommend any high school student in Gloucester who is interested to put their name forward to the mayor's office and join the board. It's not a lot of work, but it's important work. So I hope you all support this.
Any further discussion, counselors? So I would be supporting this as well. I'm the one that had put through the Disability Rights Commission. And I had worked at that point very closely with Josh Arnold on it. And he had shared a lot of best practices from other municipalities. But I think that now that we have a strong Human Rights Commission and it's well-oiled and they're doing their job and they're staffed and adding more members of some of our students, I think that I like how this is feeling and going. So I think it's the right decision to dissolve the initial one and to make it a subset of this. So I will be supporting this. Thank you to the Human Rights Commission. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we don't need a roll call vote. So on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Good job and a long reading. Okay, it's a 2-part, so we will continue with the second part. Okay.
On a motion by Council Nolan, second by Council O'Hara, the ordinance administration to be voted by read. Boards and commissions. Division 10A, Disability Rights Commission, Sections 2-515, Disabilities Rights. Commission established terms, Section 2-516. Election of chairpersons, Rules of Procedure, Section 2-517. Purpose, Section 2-518. Definition of person with a disability, Section 2-519. Powers and duties in Section 2-519.5. Records in its entirety, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Nolan, seconded by Council O'Hara. Is there further narrative? Council Nolan.
This just kind of binds everything together and brings both of the ordinances to where they need to be. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I think this is a great step forward in another commission and initiatives that the administration and our committees are working hard for the people of Gloucester.
Thank you. Further discussion, councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Public hearing 2023-044 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Building and Building Regulations, Article 4, construction or restoration of city-owned buildings by adding a new section 5.62.
I would like to open the public hearing. Quite loud enough. Wasn't very effective earlier. Would someone like to speak in favor of this? Council Worthley.
Thank you. Is it okay if I address the council from the podium, or is it just okay to do it?
We'd like you to address it right here.
Okay.
And if you can put
Sure.
your screen up there if you have it.
I'm not going to do screens because I have my presentation from O&A, which I think we may have seen. I wonder though if we could put the ordinance on the screen. I don't know if that's an option. I sent an email about that. And if not, I can try to pull it up. That's right. Thank you. If it's easier for me to log in as a panelist and share the screen, I can do that.
As Joanne continues to work on that, I'd just like to mention something to all of you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. But one of the things that you can watch over there on the screen is you can see when people that are zooming in, when they're panelists, for example, our general counsel, you can just see them at the bottom of the screen. So that way you can interact and get a feel for the folks that are zooming in from their house. And we're all learning this together. So this is our first night back. So
Also, there's cake.
oh, yeah, please share the birthday cake for the month of September. Okay, we have it. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, Council Worthy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you to the council and members of the Ordinance Administration Committee for reviewing this with me over the last year, but specifically the last few months. I introduced this order in October of 2022, and it was Council Gilman's positive recommendation to include the advice from our advisory commission, the Clean Energy Commission. It's a group of people I hadn't worked with before, and I'm very happy for the benefit that they've added to me personally and to the council's ordinance I'm proposing. We had 5 meetings over the course of about 7 months. They had a subcommittee that meant to redraft the ordinance to add some of the things I hadn't even imagined as ideas, and they significantly improved the ordinance. As a result, the improvement was so significant that we needed to re-advertise it because it was not matching my initial thoughts or my initial proposal, and I'm glad we did that as well. I do believe that there are members of the Clean Energy Commission here to advise us on this as well. Not here, but on the Zoom meeting. Their improvements have made it so that people are crediting me for introducing this, but I give them all the credit. I essentially have told them it's their ordinance now because of the way they propose it and the changes. What I'd like to do is if I could read it through and then just kind of highlight a few pieces. It's not too long. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So this would be adding an ordinance to section 5-62. The purpose of section 5-62 is to apply the principles of sustainable design, construction, and usage to city-owned buildings. The basic objectives of sustainability are to reduce consumption of non-renewable resources, minimize waste, create healthy environments, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In order to apply these principles, the following sustainable technologies will be considered during the design process prior to the application for a building permit or commencement of any work for the construction, renovation, or remodeling of a city-owned building, also referred to as the work. These technologies shall include, but not be limited to, energy efficiency and conservation, such as HVAC systems, lighting controls, weatherization, renewable energy such as solar, wind, hydro, water conservation, waste management, transportation efficiency such as electric vehicle charging stations, pedestrian walking paths, bicycle paths, usage of environmentally low impact building materials, operational and maintenance practices, collectively hereinafter referred to as sustainable technologies. In the event that certain sustainable technologies are not economically or otherwise feasible at the time of the work is to commence, the work should be designed and made so that it facilitates and optimizes the retrofitting, installation, and usage of sustainable technologies at some future point after completion. Municipal buildings in the historic district are exempt from external changes that would impact the aesthetics of said buildings, but not necessarily internal ones. If a building committee designer or designated member of the city's administration can demonstrate that a projected return on investment cannot be achieved within a 15-year time frame beginning from installation, this section of the Code of Ordinance shall not apply. This section 5-62 shall be administered in accordance with Article 5, Planning and Community Development of the City Charter. So I'd like to just go over a couple of high-level points. The details are, this committee is very effective. They know their stuff. I learned a lot. I've learned a lot of new words from working with them that they added into this. The first impact that this would have would be for the environment. This is literally everything that we've been hearing about and talking about. We want to think globally and act locally on climate change and stemming climate change. And I don't think there's anything more local than the local city council saying, let's act and do this. So one is this is good for the environment. Two, I think this is a small investment that will save taxpayers a lot of money, either as individuals, because the city's getting money out of this, or because we can use that additional money for different services we provide. For example, the wind turbines that were put in place many years ago provide, I think, a $300,000 savings to the city of Gloucester that then we use to spend on different services. So yes, this would mean that whatever loan authorization comes before us would cost a little bit more, but the long-term effect, and I expect the city of Gloucester to be here for the long term, is that there'll be significant savings. There were some questions raised at the Ordinance Administration Committee meeting where we wanted some numbers. We had a presentation from Consult Solar, and in that scenario, they showed that the return on investment occurs within about 5 to 6 years. So if we were to look at, for example, it's too late for this ordinance, but the new school that was built is solar ready, meaning the wiring is set up for that. But if at the time the loan authorization was for $25,000 or $50,000 more to put solar panels on it, that would have been generating electricity and savings really for the last year and a half before the school was even open. And that ultimately would have saved money. We all have heard, I think, that Governor Healy has announced millions of dollars in grant funds to help with this sort of thing. And it could be that there would be no cost to the city to do that. And also when we do this, we have a loan authorization that's paid back over 20 years. The additional cost is spread out over that time. The savings would be immediate. So our operating budget would benefit from any savings we have in our electrical costs. The third piece of this, though, is probably the more significant one. I think it's setting a tone, it's sending a message. The city of Gloucester, according to the CARP plan, says that we contribute 2% to the carbon footprint, meaning our buildings and our city vehicles contribute to 2% of the carbon footprint compared to the rest of the city. And so we're not going to see that change in the environment just from the city doing this, but I think we can set the tone to our business owners and our property owners, residential property owners and builders, that this is important. We take it seriously. We're putting our money where our mouths are. We're not going to tell them to do something we're not going to do ourselves. And so I think the messaging would be very positive. I can't imagine someone saying, you're going to renovate this building, and I don't want you to spend the extra $50,000 for renewable energy because it costs too much, because there'll be savings. And I think that's a message we should be conveying to all of our citizens as well. So I believe this is new and it's different for some people. It's very well thought out. It's forward thinking. It has the support of our advisory commission, the Clean Energy Commission. They've sent a letter to all of us. I think we've all received that to show their support. And I'd like to allow, certainly Candace Wheeler's up to you, Madam Chair, if she could sort of co-join on this testimony, because the Clean Energy Commission really is the sponsor of this ordinance.
So anyone that would like to speak in favor can. So thank you, Council Worthy.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this, the public hearing? Okay. Candace, if you would introduce yourself and your address, and you have 3 minutes to talk to the city council about this. Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. I'm Candace Wheeler. I'm the chairman of the Gloucester Clean Energy Commission. And over the past year, we have had much discussion about the proposed ordinance. Oh, I guess I forgot to give you my address. I'm from 8 Rockholm Road in Gloucester. And the Clean Energy Commission believes that the ordinance, that the version of it that we recommended will be a strong statement of intent by the city to follow the principles set up by our CARP plan, the Climate Action and Resilience Plan that was completed within the last year. The purpose of having the municipality lead the way in using renewable technology and energy efficient technology in its own building projects is that it's a consciousness raiser that can point out the advantages of this type of construction to all of our property owners, business, private, residential, and so on. We really do believe that the city should lead by example on this sort of thing. The ordinance version that we drafted is slightly different than the one that is before you tonight, simply in that there are 2 sections that Jeff included from his original proposal that were not in the CEC's proposed language for the ordinance. Because I don't want to represent something that isn't consistent with the vote by CEC members, the current sections 4 and 5 in the version that's before you were not voted on by the Clean Energy Commission. Our version is exactly the same, except that it doesn't have items 4 and 5. Our letter of support that was written back in June of 2023 to the City Council has as an attachment the exact version that was voted for approval by the Clean Energy Commission. And as we support this ordinance as a statement of intent by the city, we also believe that there's already a detailed process for the approval of city construction projects, both new buildings and renovations and improvements that is set forth by our city charter and by our city ordinances. And in large municipal projects, there are design committees and building committees that are set forth and set up under these terms of our ordinances and charter. And they have the responsibility for the design and approval of municipal building projects, which eventually are approved by the City Council. And at last, the financing for the projects have to be approved by the City Council. The review process includes work by our Zoning Board of Appeals, our Planning Board. All of these boards play a role in the design and construction, as we've recently seen in the creation of the new school, which went through the lengthy approval process set forth by our bylaws and our charter. And we think that
may I just ask if you could wrap up in a minute? That would be great.
Yes.
I'm giving you an extra minute because of your important role
Oh.
during the Clean Energy Commission.
Thank
go
you
ahead.
very much. So I think we are recommending that that the city adopt the ordinance as written by the CEC. Certainly there can be further discussion about items 4 and 5, which may have strong reasons to go ahead and add those in. But for public hearing purposes, I want to express the city's support for the idea of this ordinance as a statement of the city's intent to design and build sustainably when we do municipal projects and renovations, and particularly municipal buildings and the renovations of those buildings. And that there be further work done to see how those the sustainable principles can be built into our approval processes for municipal projects until such time in the future that the state building code may completely include all those kinds of renewable and energy efficient provisions as part of the required state building codes. We're not there yet, and so we feel that the city should act locally in advance of any changes to the state code and adopt this ordinance. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to weigh in on this.
Thank you so much, Candace, for all your hard work. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? Val Nelson, would you introduce yourself in your address? And you have 3 minutes to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. My name is Valerie Nelson, and I live at 7 Sunset Point Road. I might be a little repetitive, but I'd really like to lend my support to this ordinance for some of the reasons already given. Many of you know I'm a pretty active participant in various climate organizations and a lot of different studies on Cape Ann. And so from that perspective, I see this as a tremendous step for the city council to take. So basically, I think the way to look at it is that this is a win-win for the city, the wider Gloucester community, and for the climate. As you've heard, the language will require building committees for new buildings or retrofit projects to explore some opportunities for sustainability features, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and other sustainability features in water and waste management, for example. And I say this is a win-win because over the long term, these investments can save the city significant amounts of money in lower operational costs. Sustainable municipal buildings are a strong signal to our residents and businesses that they should also consider investments in their own homes and structures. As it was mentioned, the carbon emissions of municipal buildings is relatively small, but if you can really inspire the rest of the community to take similar actions, that's when you can see the city headed towards net zero, as we all hope. I want to point out, which hasn't been mentioned, that often these investments make for healthier buildings. Indoor air quality, for example, is much better, and that's good for all of us, but also children in schools, for example. So this is a health improvement as well. And also, I think of it as a win because these are not mandatory steps. If the financial profile ends up costing the city more money than can be saved over time, the building committee has the authority to not proceed. So finally, leadership by the city council tonight will be much appreciated by the climate community and in fact, all residents of the city. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Val. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Linda Brayton, welcome, another member of the Clean Energy Commission.
Yeah, Linda Brayton, 527 Washington Street. Good evening, councilors. After many years in the making, the groundbreaking for the Sawyer Free Library's major building expansion was this September 29th. This is wonderful news, but the reason I am bringing it up here is because it's an exemplary project, one that demonstrates how sustainability design can be incorporated into even the most challenging of projects. Last Thursday, in the Gloucester Daily Times, there was an opinion column by Carl Guston about the Sawyer Free Library that is well worth the read. Here are a few quotes that I think will make my point. The city stepped forward early with a loan order that provides financing for the project. As a result, construction and fundraising are moving in parallel. In the meantime, donors and community leaders are hosting fundraising events. The library has received about $17.5 million in funding for the project, including $10 million from the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners through a grant. Other major contributions have come from businesses, foundations, and private donors. A significant part of the investment is for state-of-the-art energy efficiency measures associated with heating and cooling, LED lighting, and water management. A two-phase strategy to incorporate solar energy into the facility is also planned with phase one installation of solar panels in 2025. The library expects to meet all of its energy needs through renewable resources, primarily on-site generation from solar panels, combined with on-site battery storage. Additional needs are expected to be met through purchases exclusively from renewable sources such as wind and solar. This net zero approach is consistent with requirements for new construction being imposed in many jurisdictions. For Clean Energy members, the basic intent of its recommended draft ordinance is to ensure that, to the greatest extent possible, all major municipal building projects will be carried out with the same level of commitment to sustainability design as this one has been. And we do not want to leave this to chance. The commission has considered this ordinance proposal over a number of months. It appears that there are three potential ways that our recommendations for this ordinance amendment language might be utilized, either alone or in some combination. These are: one, as an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, and that's the strongest one; two, as a council resolution; three, as policy. For example, standard language added to the purchasing department's bidding documents. As Candace has outlined, both in writing and in her public statements, we are recommending that the appropriate city administration officials and staff review this proposed ordinance amendment within the context of existing regulations and conditions to determine how best to bring about the strongest and most effective outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Exactly 3 minutes, so appreciate it.
I
Very
planned
helpful.
it that way.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Seeing none, anyone like to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Oh, Jill Cahill, our CAO. Could you introduce yourself? And
This feels good to be back.
and we can give you more than 3 minutes because you're the presenter.
I think it'll be okay,
so
but thank you, Madam Chair.
up to 15.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Jill Cahill, Chief Administrative Officer in Mayor Verga's office. Madam President, through you to the members, this feels really good to be back here. It's been over 3 years for me as well. I want to start by saying it's really important for the public and the members of the council to understand that the administration fully supports the principles and the goals of this ordinance. And I think the two members of the Clean Energy Commission really put it very clearly and well that where they were in their recommendation around this, they were very clear that they really wanted our group to come, the internal group to come together and talk about how we can achieve this best through policy and practice, real practice. So I am standing here in opposition of the order of the council order because of the form that it comes in. So Council Worthley, please understand that we support the heart of this. We also fully support that the city should be a leader and lead by example. And we're doing many of these things already. I think one of the important things to know, so as you all know, we hired the sustainability coordinator this year. One of her primary goals is to work across departments to address things like this. Just in the last, she's been on board maybe 6 months, 8 months. Today, the mayor and Gemma were out with the Cape Ann Chamber going business to business to talk about the Mass Save program for businesses. Gemma's been at every public event possible to get the information out to the public about how they can help. We retrofitted both the Magnolia Fire Station and the West Gloucester Fire Station with heat pumps so that we can already make those buildings better. And we're on our way to Bayview, but I think the walls are thick or something. So we're working on it. So I think the heart of what we have to say here is that we are already a leader in sustainability and reducing carbon footprint. As you all know about the CARP, really set out the work plan for the next steps. Gemma's working cross departments on that. We have a meeting actually with Candace next week to talk about what it looks like to put this into our procurement policies. Stacy Capone, our purchasing agent, is involved in these conversations. We've been a part of the green community since 2010, haven't missed a grant round, and continue to really work closely, community development with DPW on what's the best way to address those and where our energy hogs Um, and we're really working right now. Also, we've revamped the Capital Improvements Advisory Board. And so we're really bringing them into the process of, okay, when we're capital planning, how do we do it with this more thorough picture of what it's going to look like in the future? So we truly believe in from the administration that we can get to the heart of this much more efficiently through processes, policies, and practice than through an ordinance that ties our hands a little bit, particularly the specific language about specific technologies, as we know that changes regularly. So while we support the principles behind this, we hope you'll take into consideration what it looks like to put it into practice. And we're happy to continue, keeping you guys updated on those policies as we move forward, if that's helpful to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, are there any correspondences, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
Point of information, how about rebuttal?
So the rebuttal would come actually now. So, Madam Clerk, is it 5-minute rebuttal? It's 3 minutes. 3-minute rebuttal. Council Worthy.
Sure. So firstly, I appreciate the administration's support for these concepts. There's nothing about this ordinance that ties anybody's hands. In fact, it's very flexible. It's a very simple ordinance, and the legislative body legislates, and that's why we have ordinances. With all due respect to this administration, you may be there in 2024, 2026, and 2028, but you may not, and we may not be here. But this is a tone setter for future administrations as well, to say this is a message that we want to say, that we want everybody that works in the city, not everybody, but everybody, every different commission, every different board, to take these things into consideration. And yes, you mentioned that there's a tying of hands because of the specific technology, but the specific language here says these technologies, let me find it, hang on, will be considered during the design review prior to this. Not limited to. So if there's a new technology that comes along, there's no reason why that we couldn't implement a new technology. We built that into there. We also, I'd like to address the question about the last two pieces. Numbers 4 and 5 were in my initial proposal. The Clean Energy Commission really focused on the technology part of it. I think that my numbers 4 and 5 were exempts historic district, buildings in the historic district from external changes. That makes it easier for this to be implemented. And then if there's a return on investment that's not as quickly as achieved in 15 years, that also makes it easier for the administration to implement this. So we've had 5 Clean Energy Commission meetings, 3 Ordinance Administration Committee meetings. This is the first City Council meeting. This is the first I've heard of opposition administration. So they've had plenty of chances to affect this ordinance. It literally is a textbook way of putting legislation forward. And with great due respect, doesn't tie any hands. I think this sends a great message to the administration, but also to our residents and businesses. So those points weren't lost on me, but it certainly would be helpful for this council to say, as a legislative body, this is what we believe in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councilors? Actually, is there a rebuttal? Go ahead, come back to the microphone.
Point of order. Is there a rebuttal to rebuttal?
There is.
There is, right? I'm right. Yeah. I just want to make a correction. We shared an email about our opposition to this, and we spoke at ONA prior to the I can't remember what.
Rebuttal to the rebuttal. Point of order. I didn't receive an email. I don't know if this council did, and there was no testimony at the ONA meeting.
Not a point of order.
Yeah. Anyway, it was shared. It was discussed at ONA. So thank you. I just want to make sure that the public had clarity on that. Thank you. Question.
Okay.
So now we're at the questions point. So who has questions? And let's be mindful of making sure that they're questions. So Joanne, would you I would say we can each have 2-minute turn, and then we can 3 minutes.
The rules are 3 minutes.
Okay. So 3 minutes, and that would be great. So
Thank you. Jill, do you mind? We'll give it a bash. You've been involved in a number of projects in the city in the last 10 or so years. Can you describe the places where the issue of sustainability and green technology is brought into play during the design process and the development of a project that is going to be made for the city?
Sure. From the projects that I've been involved in that I can speak to, we begin the discussion about sustainability elements right at the beginning from design, and it continues throughout because you'll see it add alternatives if we think, because sometimes, right, you're looking at the beginning of the project and you're really thinking about numbers. So you might choose to put them as add alternatives. So they enter the discussion immediately. Oops, sorry. My alarm. Time to say goodnight to the kids. But I think, so it starts from the very beginning of the process currently, and then gets reviewed as we go. Is this a good time? Do you think we could make a change here? Do you think, do you think it would be a good addition here? Do you think this is something we should keep as an alternative? What we'd like to do, and what we're working with procurement on now in our capital planning, is to make it part of the bid documents that go out and say, have you reviewed A, B, C, D? And, we'll take a look at some of the things that are included in here. We'll work with the Clean Energy Commission on it so that way we get it back from us in the form of the response to the RFPs right from the get-go.
And when we have a project that's coming up, do we reach out to like the Clean Energy Commission or other boards or commissions to discuss this issue?
We do not currently through the build, not in a building project. Clean and I mean that they can speak for themselves, but I think that topic came up, and to put every single one of our building projects in front of the Clean Energy Commission, it's different expertise, but definitely take their input on what we should include in the bid documents so that we have that information coming back to us immediately.
Certainly, these discussions can be held at the various boards and commissions, the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals and City Council can all bring up concerns and issues regarding sustainability. And so I guess the only other question I think you really already answered is there's nothing in this ordinance that requires the administration to do anything, but the fact is that you're basically doing this stuff in the best interest of projects already.
We're doing it in the best interest of projects already. I think the only real step I see, again, once it's part of the procurement that's already done, that's really on the people who are bidding. The analysis about where are we going to get our return on investment in 15 years, that's we're again something that our designers and our architects would already be looking at, but I think that's going to add a new element to do right at the beginning. But again, it's essentially happening in the process already. I'm not quite sure what that means to administer it yet to you guys, like what you'll want back from us on that, but it's already part of the discussion process for building.
I'm going to ask you a little bit of a hypothetical. Can you conceive of working with an architect or a project planner that wasn't engaged in actively pursuing green technology?
Yeah. No, we start with what level of efficiency can we achieve, and typically it's because of the police station. The different buildings you're able to do different things. Like I said, we have 2 fire stations. We were able to get heat pumps in, no problem, easy. Bayview is going to cause a little bit more of a challenge. Doesn't mean we don't try, right? So.
Thank you. Councilor Nolan.
Thank you. It's going to be a little bit weird, but I'd like to ask Councilor Gross a question, coming from the school committee, being there for West Parish School, and how much environmental and energy efficiencies are already planned in to buildings such as that and those projects, and what your experiences with seeing what they do to make that happen.
The reimbursement program through the School Building Association Assistance Program, you get like 2.5% extra reimbursement for being a LEEDs building, which I forget what LEEDs stand for, but that's energy efficiencies. And so that's both schools that were recently built got that total reimbursement because they exceeded the energy efficiency requirements of that.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Gross.
Further questions, councilors? Councilor Majota.
I guess the question's for Bill or Jeff, who can answer. Are there state regulations that we have to follow before building any buildings that sort of override these guidelines, or is the state coming up with new guidelines that we have to follow?
Yeah, so we adopted the energy stretch code when we became a green community in 2010. They recently released an updated specialized stretch code. We have not adopted that locally yet. Our building inspectors are getting trained up on the updates right now. Sustainability coordinator, building department, planning department are having that discussion about when the right time. And they're not in final form, so we'll push that out to CEC. And there's a very good chance, particularly as you mentioned under this current administration at the state level, that they will become requirements for all of us right now. I will say, and Councilor O'Hara might be able to speak to this, the contractors and the building inspectors are working really hard to keep up with the stretch code upgrade or the updates as they come out. So we are really conscious of what that means for each one of these building projects as they come out. So we currently have some. There's a next set coming, and it may become just across the board for the state. But yeah, there's things that we have to do already.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Councilor
No, thank you.
Majota?
No other
Anyone-
questions.
Who else has not asked a question? Council Worthley.
Thank you. So I appreciate that it's already in the process. We have probably approved, as this body has approved, probably $50 to $60 million in loan authorizations for various projects in the last year and a half. I don't recall one of them having renewable energy as a factor in the
Council,
details.
what is the question?
The question is,
Thank you.
when we approved the $800,000 for the roof of the solar for the senior center, did we include renewable energy into that building? It's just a yes or no. The answer is no. When we reviewed the police station and courthouse building, and I think there was $19.5 million, how many of those $19.5 million went towards renewable energy? I can't hear you.
Joe?
I'm not going to debate the counselor tonight, but that project was one. You should know that both of the police building projects started before this administration, and that building committee was set long before this mayor was here. I was here. I was not on that building committee. But we specifically, before you approved that, we went to Gemma specifically and said, what did they go through all of this properly, and did they take a look at it? And the answer was yes.
So those two loan authorizations were with the prior administration.
No, the project started, but this administration brought the loan authorizations. But this process starts long before the loan authorization gets to you.
Will the next administration, whenever that might be, also factor those things in?
If we put them into a procurement policy process, yes.
If you put it into your procurement process, does this ordinance preclude you from doing that?
Nope.
Okay, so if we pass this, the council would have an ordinance that factors in the same exact things that you could put into administrative functions.
You can choose to put it in ordinance. That's what your job is. That is correct. Our job is to administer it.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other further questions, councilors, for anyone that has not asked any questions? Council O'Hara.
Sure. This is for Council Wordley. We all know Tim Sanborn from Consult. And his representative spoke of payback in buildings. I don't know if you could just give us an idea of some of the buildings in Gloucester, public buildings, that if solar, the payback, things of that nature.
Sure. I'll just summarize what was at the meeting. So it was asked, one of the members had asked for some numbers. And so I asked Tim Sanborn to have his representative come. And this was simply on solar. There's many other tools for renewable energy, but he spoke specifically on solar. And he took a couple of buildings throughout the city, and he found that the average would have been 5.5 years. So if we spend an additional $50,000, we would see the savings on the operational side right away. But if we were to put that money towards that loan, in 5.5 years, it'd be paid off. And so every day after that, we'd be basically making money at that point. So 5.5 years is right around the corner, basically, in this 400-year history. So I thought their presentation was really helpful to put in context. And if it weren't the case, if we had a building in a shady spot and it turned out that solar didn't work, or it took 15 years before we got that money back, then any building committee, council, mayor would be exempt from this ordinance as written. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Any further questions? Follow-up question, Council O'Hara.
Yeah, just as far as specific buildings, did he reference any specific buildings?
So I remember they looked at a number of buildings. I don't know which one they used for the final example, but I think he averaged, I think it was the high school, the senior center, buildings that are, I think he used the footprint of the new school. And the answer was 5.5 years. And keep in mind, that was assuming the city pays for it outright. That didn't factor in any grant money that we could have if we qualify for it.
Thank you.
Council Majota.
Okay. I guess with the, you mentioned potentially solar on certain buildings. Are there restrictions to adding solars to flat roofs? Will weather be a factor? We do live in New England. We do get snow. Would that be able to damage it? And what is, I believe in the presentation, after 20 years, it is the city's responsibility to, we will own the solar panels and then we'll be responsible for replacing them if they don't work or more efficient. I think the life expectancy of those things were 20, 25 years. And after that, you go down from 99 or 98, whatever the percentage was, it goes lower down every single year. So then it would be additional cost to sort of get more energy using the solar. And just
Sure,
for
the question
record,
is, point of order, I just need the question.
I guess my question is, after the 20 years, the city will be responsible for maintaining the solar panels that are on potentially with the roof or damaged. Is the city responsible for those solar panels after the?
Okay, so there wasn't a presentation at ONA about ownership in 20 years. That wasn't part of the presentation. We would own anything we buy the day we buy it. And with that would be maintenance. There wasn't a presentation about flat roofs or angled roofs. I think that we have a lot of flat roofs. And if we were to say, okay, on a project we're doing already, if it's a senior center, we'd have to say, okay, well, to make this work, you need to have a slanted roof. To do that, it's going to cost a lot more money, and therefore we wouldn't have the return on investment in 15 years. So this would be, obviously, our engineering department, our architects would have to say, does this make sense? If it's a flat roof and it doesn't make sense, and you can't pitch it for some reason, they factor that in and say, okay, well, here's the return on investment if you have to make additional costs to get that roof in place. As far as 20-year period, that's when the efficiency of the return would reduce, which means we'll be getting a lot of money right from the beginning, and then it would slow down. But we're already in the black after 5.5 years. So yes, in 20 years, I'll be 66. I don't know how old you'll be. Some people here might still be alive, we hope. In 20 years, then the amount of money we get back goes from 100% to a lesser number. It doesn't mean it costs us unless we decide to renew those and buy new ones, but that would be a decision for a future council and a future mayor.
Any other further questions, councilors? I have a question, Jill, if you don't mind. So it seems to me, I attended the ONA meeting, so I'm familiar with all the conversations that we've had, but it seems to me that the missing component of this draft ordinance is enforceability, because what it's really doing is it's really creating a kind of a goal of what we want to do. Do you see a downside from that? If there's an ordinance that just kind of is the dream and it kind of just shares where it is we want to be from CARP and everything else, is there any downside from where you sit of having something like that that clearly is not enforceable, but yet it's just kind of setting a stage for what we hope is the case with all these municipal building committees?
Yeah, I mean, that's the exact reason, and the exact reason that we're not here to debate the principles of this ordinance. Enforceability, long-term maintenance, is this the right place to put it? Changing technologies, flexibility within our policies and our procedures to administer these ordinances. That's what we have to think about. So yes, not being enforceable is one of the reasons that we don't think it should be as an ordinance. I mean, it's the principles are great. We get it, we see it, we understand. Everybody, I think this council and this administration agrees. It's the vehicle, it's not the right vehicle in the administration's opinion.
And how long would you think that it would take administration to come up with that procurement policy that kind of stretches the things that we want the possible bids to contain?
I mean, I don't think it's going to take a long time for us. I think a lot of the flushing out of the work has been done between the counselor and the Clean Energy Commission and our sustainability coordinator. And I'm trying to think what the next, so this building actually will probably be one of our next big projects to go to bid. And I could see this being a part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions, counselors, before we close the public hearing?
Just one simple question for me. Mr. Cahill, do you know the date of the email that you or the mayor sent?
So it was, you and I had a phone conversation that day also, Counselor Worthley, because I called to let you know specifically that we were going to send something opposing this, but and we had this full conversation, you and I. So I would have to look back at the date of the,
No, but was there an email sent from you or the mayor?
yes, I have sent it to the chair of ONA. I will find, yes.
I didn't see that.
We had a conversation and.
We had a conversation on the stairs when I approached you to ask for input.
And I let you know that I was going to be sending an email, yeah.
I don't remember seeing an email, so I don't know if any other councilors received that.
Okay.
email. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'm going to ask for the committee report from Counselor Nolan.
All righty. So on this committee report, we have a motion by Councilor Nolan, seconded by Councilor Majota. The Ordinance Administration Committee voted by roll call, 1 in favor, 2, Majota and Nolan opposed, to recommend the City Council amend the Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Building and Building Regulations, Article 4, Construction and Restoration of City-Owned Buildings by adding a new section 5-62 as follows. I'd like to say that Councilor Worthley did read that in its entirety and full. Would you like me to read it again, or would you like it accepted as read by Councilor Worthley in his opening statement?
Comfortable with that? Is everyone comfortable with that being the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I so move.
Second.
Okay, motion's made by Counselor Nolan, and second by Counselor O'Hara. Hold on. Is there a narrative from you on the motion?
Other than the fact that this is something that Council Worthley put forward. He did work with the Clean Energy Commission. It was an ongoing thing, trying to get different information and different views. It did finally come before the Ordinance Administration Committee, and as I report, you saw how it was voted, and now it's in front of us for a public hearing.
Counselor Worthley and then Counselor Gross.
I'll be very brief. I obviously present this in favor. Jill, I heard you. And it matters. It also matters that this is the legislative side and we're setting a policy. This is important. There's nothing that came up in opposition that can't be factored into this ordinance. It doesn't tie any hands. There's tremendous flexibility for new technologies, and there's an out, right, on municipal buildings in the historic district. There's an out for return on investment if it's not achieved in 15 years, which would include any construction changes or a lot for angles or flat roofs or things like that. So all of the things that could be considered have been considered. And I'm not saying that there isn't potentially other things that we could add to this, but right now we don't have a policy. We don't have an ordinance. We don't have a guideline. And I think it's great to hear that it's important to the administration. The loan authorizations we've seen haven't reflected that. And I'm not saying that there aren't architects who make this a priority, but we haven't seen, and we're going to put in $50,000 extra for this investment. And it's not been embedded into the loans. So this is something I would say to this mayor, and if he were to be there next year, the same thing, and anybody else that is mayor for generations, this is important. The legislative side says we want that money spent and invested. It actually gives you an ability to ask for more money. Hey, the ordinance that you passed in 2023 kind of make this loan authorization a little bit more expensive because it'll pay back all that money and then some, which will save taxpayers money, which ultimately is one of our goals. So I appreciate the dialogue. 5 Clean Energy Commission meetings, 3 Ordinance Administration Committee meetings, this public hearing, we've heard and factored in everything we possibly can.
Thank you. Counselor Gross and then Counselor Grow.
I'd like to add, propose an amendment to this.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number 2. I would propose that replace the initial language with the following language. to apply these principles, put standard language in bid documents slash contracts that require the design architect do an analysis of renewable, sustainable energy systems for the project.
Nice to move.
I so move.
Second.
That's my first amendment.
There's a motion, there's amendment to the main motion that Council Gross just stated, and I believe seconded.
Councilmember Hart.
Seconded. Can you restate it one more time? I know that you kind of.
Is this in addition? Are you adding
No.
to this?
No, this is to replace number
But
2.
you're deleting?
All of 2? Yes,
You're
it's
deleting
easier to replace it all and then fill in the language that's in there.
Okay, so
in
you're
the
deleting
motion.
number 2 and
So,
go ahead.
So to apply these principles, put standard language in bid documents slash contracts that require the design architect to do an analysis of renewable, sustainable energy systems for the project. And technology shall include, but not limited to, the following. So, and then it has the ones, and add geothermal into the following technologies. So I added.
You're
And I
keeping.
so move.
I'm sorry. Second. Question.
So
Can I ask a
Memard seconded
Well, he moved
already.
it again.
So is everyone clear on this?
No,
Okay.
no.
So
Can I ask a question?
can we,
Well, I'm not clear on this. You asked if we were clear.
right, so I think Tony was going to go back. If we're not clear, we're going to just try to say it again.
Wait, but
Can ask.
can I just ask a
Easier,
question?
yeah.
Okay. In paragraph 2, on number 2, you're deleting the first paragraph, but not the second. Is that correct?
I'm not deleting all of the first paragraph. I am changing things in it so it's easier just to delete it, and then it's cleaner. And then on the second paragraph, I am adding technology shall include but not limited to the following: energy efficiency, conservation,
Et cetera, et cetera.
HVAC, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
It include geothermal.
Okay, so when you changed the first paragraph, or when you deleted the first paragraph, did you add city-owned buildings to your amendment? I
Oh,
didn't hear
because
it.
this is about city-owned buildings.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just a question of clarification for Councilor Gross, if I may. First, thank you for the amendment. So you're including all these technologies, and you're adding geothermal, which I don't know why it wasn't included. So good catch on that. You said that the architect needs to include these. I don't know if we're at that point where we never have an architect. There have been days, years before, where we'd have building committees that would consult but wouldn't have an architect. I can't imagine we're doing any construction project, but is there a scenario where we wouldn't have an architect? Okay, then
By charter, you have to.
well, we've had building committees without, we've had volunteer architects, we've had people who, as far as an architect we've hired, sometimes we've done projects.
Looking at the distant past that we no longer adhere to.
Okay, okay, as long as you're good with that, I support your amendment. Right.
Yeah.
I support
Okay,
this, thank you.
so I want to make sure that we're clear on this amendment to the main motion. Okay, is everyone clear on this? Yes, but I'm just making sure that we're clear on what we're going to discuss. Okay, so we're clear. So let's, on the amendment to the main motion, who would like to start? Go ahead.
I guess the question I would ask in rhetorically is once again, what's the enforcement aspect of this? The real problem I had with this ordinance to begin with is that it's legislation for the sake of legislation. It's a policy statement wearing an ordinance guise, but doesn't actually have any.
May I answer that?
Yeah, but let me finish the sentence. Okay. It doesn't actually have any teeth, and it doesn't have any actually substance to law. It just says this is what we believe. So where's
The
this different?
enforcement is it's in the bid document. They cannot get the bid without answering these questions.
And we don't do that already.
Not by ordinance. Certain bid, yes, RFPs are written with the minute, like the schools, but not by ordinance.
It seems to me that's a different, we're looking at a different ordinance then, is we're looking at an ordinance to require analysis of clean energy, but is that the same as the rest of
This is
this
the
ordinance?
enforcement. This is the enforcement method. It gives it concrete, tangible language that, which is what the administration was sort of asking.
Any further discussion on the amendment to the main motion? Councilor Nolan.
With the amendment, it's still, in my opinion, this ordinance actually reads as much as it might as well be a proclamation for this and not really an ordinance. Tony adds a little bit more teeth to what we're looking into. But I think that we have a lot of issues covered with what's going on with Stretch coming on and getting larger and more in depth. And even with this amendment, I have a hard time supporting this ordinance.
Let's stick with the amendment right now. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Worthley, on the amendment.
On the amendment only. Thank you, Councilor Gross. So despite 5 meetings of the Clean Energy Commission, we found the geothermal, which thank you for adding that to this. They're awesome group, an awesome group, but you added to that. So thank you. And I think that requiring bid documents to have that does give it the teeth. The other place the teeth would be is if an administration were to try to move forward with something that fixes this category, the council could say no to a loan authorization or leverage that moment to say, well, go back to the drawing board because you haven't factored this in. And so that's where the council would have some legislative role to make sure that the administration in that checks and balance role says, did you follow the ordinances? So I think that makes it stronger. Councilor Gore, I thank you for paying attention to the details because I miss some things from time to time. Appreciate you.
Further discussion on the amendment to the main motion. I will be supporting the amendment to the main motion because I think it gets us closer to what we want to be doing with this. So let's, we have a motion was made by Councilor Gross. I think it was Councilor Memard, seconded. So on the main motion, I'm sorry, thank you. On the amendment to the main motion only at this point. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, the ayes have it on the main, on the amendment to the main motion. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. So now we are back to the main amendment. Main motion, sorry.
I think Councilor Gross said he had a second one.
If other people want to speak, I have no problem waiting my turn.
I haven't even had the birthday cake, so I'm sorry. I'm getting a little.
Do you want me to
bit-
introduce the other amendment?
Sure. So we're going to be back to a second amendment.
In number 5. And this is kind of reflects where my knowledge of buildings. I know the stretch code when I had to re-get my contractor's license this year, I had to do my CEU's stretch code was big in that continuing ed, and talked about it a lot, but they also talked about structural integrity. And so I think that in the last sentence, it says within a 15-year time frame from the beginning of installation, I propose we add or compromise structural integrity or structural integrity shall be compromised. This section of code shall not apply. Because we have,
You need to move the
particularly
motion.
the example they use, the high school.
Wait, point of order. You gotta move the motion.
So move the motion.
And I so move.
Second.
Okay, motion's made by Councilor Gross. I believe it was seconded by Councilor Worthley. All right, now we're going to discuss this amendment.
The example of the high school that was used concerned me considerably because as you put these sails on top of a roof, they are going to vibrate continuously. And there is absolutely no chance that you are going to be able to maintain integrity on that roof, which will then cause far greater environmental difficulties for that building. So I think it needs to have that included in it.
Chair, on the motion,
On the motion.
if I may.
On the amendment to the main motion.
Councilor Gross, thank you again for adding your wisdom, your years in construction and improving this ordinance. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And it gives even more greater flexibility to administration if there's that scenario where there's a flat roof or if this just doesn't work for the integrity of the building. So thank you. I'll be supporting it.
Any further discussion on the amendment to the main motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Now we're back to the main motion. Further discussion on the main motion. So, thank you. So who would like to begin the discussion of the main motion with these two amendments that we've added? Mr. Grow.
I'm going to go, I appreciate the amendments that Councilor Gross has put forward. I'm going to go back to my general feeling about this, and that is, I really appreciate all the work that was done by the Clean Energy Commission, and this is certainly not anything to take away from that, or the work or the intention that Councilor Worthley's put into this. I get back to where I don't like legislating for legislating's sake, and I don't really feel, there might be a little bit more teeth in it with the amendment, that this is something that is far enough along in the teeth category if we're going to add it. It's really a policy statement, and we're here to legislate. We're here to create ordinances, not policy statements per se, especially when it comes down to issues that are effectively being addressed in the process that they already exist in. So I'm not going to support this motion, not because I don't believe in the principles that are applied, but I do agree with the administration that we're effectively not legislating an actual ordinance that has enforceability. It's a policy statement, and it's a policy statement that's reflected in our actions already to date when we engage in projects. Maybe there's a time when something would be written in a different way, or it'd be a little bit more clear. There'd be a little bit more consistency about what the city council is actually legislating here, other than a policy statement. I would support that.
If folks would like to discuss something. Councilor Worthy.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm in support of my own order, but this is really, I call it the Clean Energy Commission's order because of the input that they added to this really significantly improved it. This isn't legislation just to legislate. It's not a policy statement. There are rules in here that make it easier to include the input from the Clean Energy Commission, and it makes it required that they have a seat at the table. They don't right now. They make statements, they do great work, but we don't include them in the building process. This would now include that kind of input. And whether it's this administration or future administrations or future councils, if it's a policy statement, it's a really good one. And if it's legislation, as it's proposed as an ordinance, it now requires everybody going forward to say, this is important, this matters. And we've been kicking the can down the road for a long time about renewable energy in the city. We have buildings that don't include it and should. Ultimately, it's a savings for taxpayers. And there's so much flexibility built into this. There's no administration that couldn't find a way to make this work. So I really hope that my colleagues support the work the Clean Energy Commission has put together on this, that we have the Ordinance Administration Committee, and this is good legislation. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you. Thank you. I will strongly be supporting this. I am in favor of saving money wherever and however we can. I believe that this is an option for the city to generate money. And it's not all about money. It's about the planet. It's about the city. It's about greenhouse gases. And I don't think it's legislation just to legislate. I think this is important. And it's a statement and it's an ordinance. You put it in the code of ordinances, it's an ordinance. You have to go by what's in the code of ordinances. It has teeth. And I think it's well written, especially with Councilor Gross's amendments. I can't imagine anyone not supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Who else hasn't spoken? Counselor O'Hara.
Thank you. I will be supporting this tonight. There are many buildings throughout the North Shore that have been recently constructed that have many environmentally friendly assets, including solar panels on the roofs. Manchester, Beverly, Salem, Danvers, all have constructed buildings. For some reason, we don't. I think we're missing the boat in reference to Councilor Gross and panels on flat top roofs. They've got technologies that those panels will not move. The panels have become more efficient, smaller. The payback, as Councilor Worthley says, in the world of business, 5 years is a total no-brainer. It's a money maker. I will be supporting this. I think we have to start someplace, and we can always modify this as time goes on. But for some reason, our buildings don't have the basics that other cities and towns have already implemented. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Grow.
I just want a clarification. There's nothing in this ordinance that requires any project to go before the CEC. So I want to make sure that that's clear. And secondly, I don't think any one of us up here is against the prospect of as much green technology being incorporated into every one of our city buildings. I know that I am. I'm just saying this is not the ordinance for that. That the ordinance itself lacks the substance to actually do much of anything other than support existing policy that we are going to be pursuing anyway, and that we have places throughout the process to engage the discussion of green technology and renewable technology, and that we're not really changing anything. We haven't not built a building with renewable technology because we have lacked this ordinance. It's because whatever we have not done has not been in concert with the development of whatever project we're working with. Where we have been able to incorporate green technology, we do it with great excitement. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. Vigor. Thank you. We embrace it, and I just don't think this ordinance is where we need to be, frankly, and that's why I'm not supporting it.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, last comment for me.
Hold on. Anybody else has not spoken on this? Councilor Memard.
I'm a strong proponent of supporting environmental planning as much as anybody here in the city. And we've made some smart investments, but I don't think that this regulation as proposed, this ordinance as proposed, is the right way to go at this time. I think the administration and the various bidding planning entities going through construction projects need a little bit of flexibility. I'm concerned about how far you define this research. I mean, I know that the library project, which is before us as a green project, was urged to explore geothermal in the scenario, but which might have made sense, but the funding mechanisms that would support that commitment don't exist at the present time. Most of the proposals, most of the grants that we see at the Budget and Finance Committee are based on criteria that the grantor is looking for these kinds of investments, but it's not getting us any more money for these kinds of projects. I think the administration would have their hands tied, unfortunately, although I believe strongly in the principles that Councilor Worthley and Councilor Gross have put forward here. I just don't think this is the right place at the right time to try and take ownership of this and impose this ordinance on specifically city-owned buildings.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you. I have to disagree with my esteemed colleague, Councilor Memhard. I think this is exactly the right time and exactly the right ordinance. As Councilor O'Hara said, we have to start somewhere. Maybe it is a start, even if after 10 years, out of a 20-year solar panel or out of a 20-year heat pump, even if after 10 years we start making money, we're still making money. It's crazy not to want to generate income for this city. We need it. And we need clean energy and we need this ordinance. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I haven't spoken, so I will speak and then we can go back to you, Counselor. So I actually am going to support this. I think that it's not enforceable, you're right, but it's a vision. And it's clear to me that administration is going to be doing their part in the procurement part, which I think is great, because I think that that has the teeth. And we might decide at that point when they start to do that, we want to go back and revisit that and amend this to include that. But at this point, I think that this is just a good, it's a good opportunistic way for us to say that we believe in where we're going and what we need to do. And it's just a reminder. And I don't see a downside, the fact that it can't be enforced. It's just a vision. And I don't think that there's any hurt in that. And I don't think it's going to slow down the process because the buildings committees are already doing this type of work as it is, but it just gives us a belief. And I think the Clean Energy Commission and CARP has put a lot of time in all this vision. And I know administration believes in this. I just don't see if there's a downside. So I'm going to be supporting this. Council Worthy, do you want?
Thank you. I don't have anything else to add. You said it very well. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote. We might need a roll call vote on this, so I think I'll ask for roll call. And it's 5 in support. Okay. Actually, Tracy, you're first. So Council O'Neill.
Yes.
Okay. Council Worthley.
Yes.
All right, now I just don't know the alphabet anymore. So I'm just going to go around. Is it me? I'm next? Okay. So Gilman, yes, thank you. After G is
More Gs.
Grow.
Yes.
Gross. Okay, Grow.
No.
Majota. O'Neill. Nolan.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
personally.
Go ahead, Nolan.
No.
Oh. Who hasn't gone?
Right here. Counselor O'Hara, yes.
Councilor Memhard,
Vera?
no.
Yes. Memard, no. So councilors, the yeses have it, 6 in favor, 3 opposed. So, Nolan. And Memard, got it. Okay, all right. Isn't it nice to be in person? Doesn't this feel better than doing this on Zoom? And we're actually looking at each other and having the discussion. We're not looking at the TV. So I'm delighted
Can
to
we
be
debate
here.
that statement?
Sorry.
Point of order, Council.
My office has AC.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is an update on the Harbor Plan and Waterways Board from Counselor Gross.
It was just the harbor plan.
It is just the harbor plan. So if we added that, that was
So,
my mistake.
I put together something from the many documents and PowerPoints that we've had. So I figured the most pertinent information was about economic development in the harbor. So that's what I put together. So it says, I'll just start right in. While this plan functions primarily as a regulatory plan, it also acts as a strategic document guiding economic development priorities and approaches. So we start out with strengthening organizational capacity and regulatory foundation to support harbor economic development. One of the major suggestions has been to reestablish the Director of Harbor Planning in the Community Development Department. That person would then lead, execute, and monitor economic development initiatives such as business development, promoting innovation, driving marketing, and conducting recruitment at the scale necessary to move the needle. Next, we would build organizational capacity to support the harbor's economic development. Due to the unique sizes, the long and narrow, and private ownership of Gloucester waterfront parcels, the consultants pointed out that Gloucester needs to consider the creation of a new entity or expanded existing entity with the resources and an ability to acquire. Now, this is their recommendations I'm voicing here. Selected to acquire selected marine infrastructure and properties, drive reinvestment, support grant writing, and find sources of capital for renewal of the marine infrastructure. So we'll get back more into that entity in a bit. We are to pursue aligned supportive regulations at the state and federal levels of government. Right now, we are waiting for coastal zone management to approve the changes of the new plan before it comes back to the Harbor Planning Committee, and it's been a slow and tedious process. There's not a huge staff in those departments, and they have a lot to do and day jobs besides doing all this. So I'll continue on. Like all waterfronts, Gloucester has many layers of regulations governing development, including but not limited to state level DPA and Chapter 91 regulations, state harbor line, and federal FEMA floodplain and navigational channels restrictions. Recommendations are conduct a cost benefit analysis of the federal navigational channel boundary and Board of State Harbor Commissioners line to determine if a change in the boundary, and that boundary is how far out docks can go out into the channels or towards the channels. To determine if a change in the boundary for either or both could support expanding commercial fishing dockage, especially in Harbor Cove, without limiting Gloucester's ability to retain critical navigation of the harbor and secure funding for future dredging needs. That's one of the things you risk if you move these lines, is that the Army Corps of Engineers will no longer come and dredge. Consider completing a technical evaluation of the FEMA flood insurance rate map for the Inner Harbor, and if warranted, consider applying for that's FEMA flood insurance rate map, revision to more accurately account for present day coastal flood risks. FEMA comes, they tell you what the heights are and what the height you have to achieve. Some municipalities have challenged that line with their own actual measurements in that. So that's one of the things we're discussing. Do we need to challenge FEMA's line so that we don't have to build our docks so high? Because most fish docks can, at extreme weather conditions, can go underwater because, that's what's running on top of them all the time. Next is build an integrated technical assistance and capital investment finance system. Some of these specific recommendations are grow technical expertise with the lead organization to support adaptation of Gloucester's harbor and fishing fleet to increased flood risk, emerging technologies, and fishing changes. Need to identify, attract, and develop grant and loan products to incentivize adaptation of private infrastructure to meet the needs and evolving nature of catch technology and flood risk. So much of our property is all, as Scott's so well aware of, is all in private hands. The city owns 2 parcels. Explore an administrative and financial mechanism that can facilitate the distribution of public and philanthropic grants and loan products to private applicants. Advocate for Harbor Cove to be given special consideration and technical assistance support due to the unique small partial condition. Everybody knows where Harbor Cove is, right? Pursue local zoning updates that enhance strategic clarity and alignment with state and federal regulations. Over the course of the 2023 harbor planning process, several local zoning ideas emerged that could be beneficial to revisit outside of the harbor plan. Here are some of those recommendations or revisits that they talk about. Review the local MI, that's marine industrial, district zoning to ensure consistency with coastal zone management revised supporting use approach. Now, we found out that the 2014 plan, some of its approach, they've revised that and said, no, this is how it is, not how you had it before. So they've revised, moved the goalpost a little bit, but because the person who was doing it then is not doing it now. So anyway, so that's what that is about, revising the coastal zone management. Introduce local zoning protections and incentives for water-dependent industries. Implement right to farm type legislation to reduce nuisance complaints and political advocacy from non-industrial neighbors that harms water-dependent industrial business operators. So, you know, somebody builds a hotel right in the middle of an industrial park, the noise is their problem, not the processors who are across the street. Then that's the right to farm is similar, but it's right to fish or right to process or whatever here. So that's one of the things that they're talking about. Visit local zoning height restrictions to incorporate the relevant design flood elevation in the DPA area. Revise local zoning height within FEMA floodplains to be measured from the design flood elevation instead of from the ground plane. Next, address issues involving floodplain and height through topographical studies and associated guidelines. Next is refine local zoning to better reflect dimensional constraints, land use opportunities, and urban design priorities of harbor planning subareas. Clarify zoning related to building envelope size and public access, physical and visual, to the harbor. Consider rezoning the harbor based on districts that reflect the partial size and existing and adjacent uses. Include more specific guidelines on things like view corridors, public access, parking, and dimensional standards. Additionally, this sub-area zoning could address mixed-use transitions at the edges of the DPA. Height. Revisit the 40-foot max height. Consider view corridors and shadowing, given flood evaluation, modern industrial floor-to-floor needs for uses like R&D. Currently, MI zone height increases require variances versus perhaps more appropriately a special permit. Urban design and public access. Revisit public access requirements, physical and visual, setbacks and buffering given the small parcels size of most of the harbor. Invest in publicly owned sites to serve as supportive infrastructure for Gloucester's maritime economy. Publicly owned sites can play an important role in indicating the community's vision and level of commitment to the private sector. Recommendations are, and this is for I4C2, conduct a geotechnical harbor infrastructure and phase 1 environmental study of 65 Rogers Street to determine the baseline development cost. So if we're going to do anything there, we find out, you know, the city finds out up front. Explore feasibility of public sector preliminary design and investment in critical harbor infrastructure at 65 Rogers Street. Identify funding and development partners to advance plans for 65 Rogers Street, consistent with the community vision established in 2023 Gloucester Harbor Plan. And some of those that were in that vision of the public meetings were, the top 4 were water-dependent marine research and education. These are DPA compliant uses. Fish loading and unloading, shared parking for water-dependent uses, and gear storage, and then supporting uses within the DPA, was seafood retail wholesale public market, parking, a visitor community center, and a commercial kitchen. Those were the public suggestions that they're looking at. Invest in public infrastructure and utilities to support Gloucester's maritime economy. That plays an important role in conveying to the private sector what the community's vision and level of commitment is. Infrastructure also provides critical shared economic benefits. So some of the recommendations include upgrading the wastewater treatment plant to reduce economic barriers to Gloucester-based seafood processing operations because they have to have a fair amount of pre-treatment. Continue to establish high-speed fiber optics to downtown, to the harbor and the other industrial. Partner with National Grid to continue to improve reliability of harbor electrical utility service. All of Gloucester needs more. We're in a power deficit here for our needs for industrial uses. Continue to work with the state, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to assess and plan for dredging needs as they arise in the harbor to support the harbor plan. Next is shape the local hospitality and tourism economy to better leverage, support, and benefit core maritime industries. Going forward, Gloucester should focus tourist economic development initiatives on distinctive, mutually beneficial tourism itineraries and experiences that offer co-benefits to downtown and water-dependent industries alike. These recommendations work towards a more defined and mutually beneficial relationship between Harbor Cove and downtown tourism and hospitality industry through a clearer spatial and operational delineation of use, especially along Roger Street and Commercial Street. Conduct an observational study of trucking operations along Roger Street and Commercial Street to identify operational needs and conflicts and congestion points in other uses. Now, I mean, anybody who's been here for a while knows that Roger Street is the truck route, and and it's narrow. It's interesting to see how a trailer truck gets into Fisherman's Wharf. They go up Center Street. No, what is it right there? Quarter Street. Make targeted streetscape, wayfinding, and pedestrian infrastructure improvements, especially on Roger Street and Commercial Street, where there are the most conflicts between working waterfront and hospitality and tourism users. Develop a harbor and downtown district parking plan that takes into account both working waterfront and hospitality and tourism parking demands. Encourage expanding transient boating and charter fishing operations to locate in Smith's Cove and the East Gloucester former DPA area to ensure that DPA protection is prioritized for businesses that need it most. So new ones that are coming in, it's like, we need to funnel you this way, save the important strategic areas. Continue to pursue a specialized strategy that maximizes economic development potential and strengthens the harbor upland. Everybody knows what upland is, right? Relationship. The specialized economic development strategy needs to differentiate between traditional pier-style small lot areas of the harbor, Harbor Cove, East Gloucester, versus large industrial areas in terms of industry and use and relationship to tourism and hospitalities. Some of the recommendations: protect and prioritize maximum development of large lot industrial priorities for more intensive industrial and marine life science development. And invest in public sector site control where needed to ensure maximum utilization of these sites. Recruit lower intensity and smaller scale water dependent uses in the East Gloucester former DPA areas. Everybody know where that is? From the State Fish Pier to Rocky Neck, except for Americold. Former DPA area to ensure DPA protections are protected for businesses that need it most. Again, drive the smaller stuff into the areas that can have it to save the more important areas. encourage and incentivize the relocation of complementary, non-water dependent tourism and hospitality function to the adjacent residential and commercial areas. So things that don't need to be on the waterfront, commercial and residential, don't need to be on the waterfront. Cultivate a high-profile, unified, supported, and well-resourced fishing and shell fishing network in Gloucester. Building a supportive foundation that grows the capacity of a network of individual operators in the fishing and shell fishing industry through investing in shared infrastructure, technical assistance, seafood processing and wholesale, marketing and recruitment, workforce development, and related hospitality and tourism initiatives. Protect and grow fishing capacity of the harbor in terms of permits, workforce, fleet, dockage, and process. Two barriers that came up repeatedly in the harbor planning process as limitation on Gloucester's fishing capacity were commercial dockage and seafood processing. Some potential actions are retain and continue to reinvest in the maintaining of the Gloucester Fishing Permit Bank. Does everybody know what the permit bank is? It's where several million in LNG money came in, and the Gloucester fishermen, what's the name of it? Gloucester Seafood Coalition. They purchased a bunch of permits to hold them in Gloucester, and then they lease the fish back to their members, so that Gloucester has the largest amount of quotas of fish in the East Coast, I would imagine, certainly in the Northeast. And so that keeps several of the boats that are still fishing are members of the coalition and have been leasing out of that permit, where one fisherman who had small amounts of quota will then lease his codfish quota. You know, he's got 5,000 of codfish. He'll lease that codfish to somebody who ran out of his codfish so he could keep fishing for any other species, because if you don't have any codfish, you can't go fishing, because you can't, God forbid, you catch codfish and you don't have any quota. So that's what the permit bank does, is it lets people get to keep fishing. So keep that going. Retain and pursue opportunities to expand publicly controlled dockage for commercial fishing vessels. So again, it's another, I don't know our capacity to be able to buy waterfront properties to be able to do that, but it's a recommendation. Explore development of shared, this is a good idea here. Explore development of shared public loading, unloading, and berthing space that can provide shoreside access for moored vessels and operators with poor landside trucking access. So you have a shared shoreside facility, but you don't need to keep your boat there or necessarily have your processors there, because processors, Monty does a good job up at Blackburn Tavern, up at Blackburn Circle. Conduct an economic feasibility study to establish or grow an existing local seafood processing and wholesale facility on the harbor or in an accessible inland location that could be used by local Gloucester operations, structured either as a for-fee service or as a co-op based model. And then help Gloucester fishing, shellfish operations capture more value. So here we have developed innovative seafood products that expand the market and increase profit margins, invest in deepening the market influence and reach of Gloucester Fresh, pursue opportunities that expand direct to consumer seafood retail and wholesale, develop marketing and training programs to promote broad use of less popular parts of the shellfish, explore creation of a seafood co-op, and explore feasibility of 100% fish strategy, which during my lifetime on the waterfront, it was all 100% fish strategy. We didn't waste a bit of it. So I guess the old coming back to new. Right? Advance relevant innovations in blue tech, marine life science, and offshore wind industries within and beyond Gloucester's working harbor. Gloucester should target growth in the marine biomaterials, unmanned undersea vehicles, and ocean observation sectors. There currently exists interest and investment by private sector in this space. Going forward, Gloucester needs to navigate economic change in a way that balances preservation of the traditional fishing industry with emerging opportunities in the blue economy and marine life science. Finding the right balance of preservation and economic change will create a more robust and resilient economy. Some of the potential actions are partner to expand the local presence of institutional research, recruit marine biomaterials industry leaders, and identify opportunities to attract private sector and marine research and development industry investment, explore level of interest and feasibility of establishing a blue economy business incubator and connect in those proximity to the harbor, and explore feasibility of establishing a dedicated new fishing technology testing area. Now, retain and grow Gloucester's opportunity to serve as a development center for marine construction and monitoring. Gloucester Harbor does not have the physical features and property ownership patterns needed to support large-scale offshore wind construction staging areas like Salem and New Bedford. This has been demonstrated by 2 Massachusetts CEC reports. The Port Infrastructure Analysis of Offshore Wind and the Massachusetts Offshore Wind Ports Infrastructure Assessment. So they determined that ultimately Salem was the only site that was best suited in the North Shore for offshore wind. But Gloucester can capitalize on growth of offshore marine renewable energy and fisheries monitoring in the greater Boston area, and Salem in particular, by advocating for the location of fleet deployment, fueling, maintenance, and repair operations in Gloucester. So what we need to do is partner with regional offshore wind development to assess gaps in Gloucester capacity to support servicing and repairing, and explore feasibility of establishing a Gloucester deployment center for marine construction and monitoring. I did say that I was going to be revisited about the entity, but what that entity would, we don't know what it would look like. It could be, a shared group of the EDIC, Fisheries Commission, Waterways Board, Planning Board. That's all that's been discussed. So that the entity that would govern, look forward on this and follow along on the implementation has not been determined. And that's it. Wow.
Good job. Thanks.
And I don't know if you noticed that the emphasis of maintaining our fishing, our commercial fishing industry was throughout that.
Are you going to share that with us? Can we get a copy of that?
You have a copy of that? Sure.
Can you read it again?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But it's my birthday. Come
Will you,
on.
will you email a copy to us or?
I'll email it to Joanne.
Okay.
That's
and then
great.
you'll-
Thank you, Tony. And you were a good selection to serve on this
Thank you very
important
much.
board. So thank you. So the last order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the city council statement regarding the Gloucester 400th celebration by Councilor O'Neill.
Just take a breath. 2023 marks 400 years since the English Dorchester Company landed on our shores. Gloucester sits on the ancestral homeland of the Pawtucket people and their neighbors, the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, and Pennacook and Wampanoag tribes. Please enjoy the year-long and multiple events throughout 2023, most of which will be free or low cost. Visit gloucesterma400.org for a list of upcoming, long, and multiple events through 2023. Whoop, sorry about that. Visit gloucesterma400.org for a list of upcoming events. Like and share the Gloucester 400 Facebook page. To receive major event notifications by email, send a request to info@gloucesterma400.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we adjourn?
Oh, last order of business, Madam Clerk.
Councilor's request to the mayor.
Okay. So we will start with Councilor O'Neill, because you were first on the roll call tonight.
Thank you. I have no requests at this time.
Council Worthley.
Thank you. I did submit a number of requests. I'd like to just draw your attention to a few things. First and foremost, happy birthday, Val Gilman. I know it's always hard to have a meeting on your birthday, and I think you handle it very well. So happy birthday. So we've got an election coming up next week. Good luck to all the candidates. I also want to thank the city clerk's office for already prepping everybody for the election. And you're going to have obviously a long day on Tuesday, but best of luck to you and the rest of your staff. We have a former plumbing inspector, Joe Guzzo, who many of you may have known and worked with. He passed away last week. And in my prior term on the council 20 years ago, he was awesome to work with. He's a good man. He was very responsive. He helped a lot of people get up to code or whatever it might be that they had to do. He was a good person to work with. So I just want to draw attention to his passing. Last year, a number of councilors participated with me and Councilor O'Neill and my children. We organized a cleanup event starting at Burnham's Field last year. We had 84 people show up. We collected 91 bags of litter in a matter of 2 hours, which it's sad that there's 91 bags of litter, but it's really impressive that we got that much. So we're going to do it again. And the date, everyone will see it, is going to be September 30th. So it's coming up in a little bit. You'll see, hopefully I'll share the invitation once we have it all ready to go. So that's it for me. Thank you. I'm so glad we're back in person. I thought it was an excellent meeting. Thank you.
Next up is Councilor Gross.
I don't have any request to the mayor, but I did have a pleasant surprise at the planning comprehensive plan meeting the other day of a person who lives on Hancock Street, right next to all the construction. And they could not have said enough pleasant things about Windover and how that project has been run. They were raving about it. And you know how we so often hear just the opposite. This person who, she said, my second floor windows look, I'm as close as you could get. The crane goes by, I can reach out, tap it. She was just thrilled with the response that the supervisor has given, the response of all the construction that's gone on in the communication. So I just want everyone to know that. This is the YMCA housing project, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Councilor Grow.
I'm good.
Councilor Majota.
I just have a few. I'll keep it short. It's been a long meeting. I'm requesting the mayor to have a speed study done on Emerson Ave, just because it is a heavy traffic area where there's a lot of cars that do go very fast, and a person lives on the street, their dog got hit by a car. So I just want to make sure that we can get a speed study done, and potentially lower the speed limit if that is needed. There is a lot of working areas there. One, Open Door, Gloucester, and then second, Gloucester High School, and then pathways for children. So for safety of the children and all those who work around the area, that'd be very important to me. Those in and out of the neighborhood too, let's just be safe for this potential storm coming. So let's all do what we can do and check on your elders and be safe. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Memard.
Just a thank you, shout out to the Traffic Commission last week, which had a good meeting with residents of Witham Street who are concerned about a level of traffic activity, heavy trucks and speeding, which included one car leaping out of control across a stone wall and into a house, and going 60 miles an hour clocked on Witham Street, if you can believe it, before the intersection with Thatcher's Road. So the Traffic Commission is proposed, and I'm going to be forwarding recommendations that they worked out with residents of that neighborhood. I also want to reach out and to thank the administration who has been working with me and Suzanne Egan and her department to implement a water pipe repair on Haskell Court, which you remember maybe as a topic we've heard about before, and the administration's working forward to help the residents on Haskell Court, which is a private way, to resolve that problem. And subsequently, there'll be a betterment paving project as well. So, but we're working closely with the administration and making good progress on several fronts. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody that the Sunday will be the Fish Box Derby. It's always a good time. Anybody who wants to come by. We have Counselor Gross, who's going to be doing inspections and safety and keeping enforcement in play with myself. But it'd be nice to see more people come down. It's a good community event with the children, and everybody seems to have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Hara?
Thank you. I want to ask the mayor if he could discuss with the superintendent, school superintendent, how 9/11 was forgotten yesterday at Gloucester High School. It was remembered today. Some of the students were mortified that it wasn't recognized yesterday. Thank you to the mayor for bringing Magnolia Pier closer to having a float. Thank you, Councilor Nolan, also. Ask the mayor if he could, some way with the fire chief, discuss that vehicles never, ever, ever park in front of apparatus doors. This continues to happen. Seconds count, minutes kill, people lose keys, vehicles don't start. This should never happen. I asked the mayor if he would patch potholes on private roads. My road, Oaks Ave, was a good road. Little tiny pothole now is a big pothole at the intersection of right at the intersection of Lexington and Oaks Ave, has never been touched. This is happening all over the city. Chapter 40, MGL Chapter 40, Section 6N allows the city to maintain private roads. This should be happening. Ask the mayor to discuss with the owners of windmills, the windmills at Blackburn, to provide the city with a safety and rescue plan for when workers are atop the windmill at the hub. What kind of rescue teams, high angle rescue teams, have they mobilized or made aware? Because accidents, terrible accidents have happened while workers are on those windmills. We should not have to wait for an accident to happen. Obviously, something's already happened with one of the windmills, but maintenance of these windmills, they're very high, and a rescue team should be at least made aware that workers are on the windmills. I asked the mayor if he could fix the clock here. Kairos, it worked in the past, probably can work again. Also at Gloucester High School last week with exceptionally high temperatures, the windows in Gloucester High School, a lot of them did not work. That school is heating and ventilation systems, and the heating and ventilation systems are the windows being operational, allows the flow of air through the school. With windows not working, it becomes unbearable for the students. Thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Leominster. They suffered a terrible event yesterday with tremendous rainfalls. They will recuperate. They have a very strong city, very strong city services, very excellent mayor, and Mayor Dean Mazzella is a great man. He'll bring that city back. Most importantly, I want to thank the men and women of our armed services who protect us 24/7, 365. The world is becoming very unstable in the South China Sea, and those men and women are protecting us. And my thoughts and prayers, and I'm sure all of us, go out to the men and women of our armed services. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So last but not least, I just want to remind people that Community Safety Day is Saturday, with Sunday as the rain date. And the proceeds this year are going to go to Lanesville Community Center. And we hope that the weather is good, but if it's not, it's on Sunday, and we're excited about that. So it's a great day for adults, for kids, for your grandkids. It's definitely worth considering. So this is it. Thank you for being here, for you. Thank you. And counselors, we did it. We came back. It was a tough meeting. I think you know, we held strong, and we did a good job deliberating on our hearings, and I'm just proud to be back in person. So let's keep up the good spirit, and thank you.
Now?
Your support is, yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We don't have to do a roll call anymore. We are just adjourned. Yeah, good night, everybody.